And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive, Tuesday, January 20th. And the DFS gods have blessed us with an actual good DFS slate. 7 games, only one locks at 7 o'clock, 2 more at 8, another at 9, 3 more at 10. Plenty of Q tags still out there. Obviously, some weirdness to wait on for Utah and the new look Golden State Warriors with no Jimmy Butler. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. That's going to be at Josh Engleman and at Chris Spags. What's going on, brother?
Glad to be here. You mentioned Jimmy Butler. I'm already vaguely triggered about that because yesterday I was 14 points out of first place in the 50K to first. And you know who's on my roster that could have given me 14 points if he didn't split his ACL? Mr. Jimmy Butler. So sad for him. I'm sure exciting for you, Josh, because now the trade machinations are back open for the Warriors, I guess. Oh, them need to do something. But definitely weird situation. Sad to see a player like Butler at his age where you're not coming back from that ACL tear with any sort of efficacy left. But he's getting big paid. So Big Head Coffee going to be doing well next year with the 57 mil he makes while rehabbing.
Yeah, he'll be all right. That's for sure. Where he is, who the hell knows? We shall see. I'm advocating for the trading of Steph Curry, but I don't think they're going to be pulling that one off in the next couple weeks. Don't know why you wouldn't. Don't know. I don't know what the other path would be, but that's a conversation for a different day. We actually have an awesome slate for DFS. If you have a premium sub at Stokastic, this is why you have it. To be able to use that late swap tool and put yourself in the best possible spot, not to mention $5 zone DraftKings contest. It's the closest thing we have to a lotto on the NBA side. It's a lot of soft money, makes the late swaps even more important. This game, on the other hand, is the first game and only game locking at 7 p.m. Phoenix Suns, Philadelphia 76ers. Mark Williams, questionable for the Suns. Paul George, questionable for the Sixers. We already know there is no Joel Embiid. This news will matter. My assumption is that Paul George is playing, but I don't know. Obviously, doesn't matter all that much. We are going to get this one. Although Paul George is not above getting ruled out after a lock, but let's just assume that's not going to happen. There's no ownership in this game right now. 15% to Maxey, about 10 to Paul George. Everybody else in the game sub 10%. Again, this is the only game that locks at 7. Do you have anything in this game that you want to get to without having to worry about the fact that it's the first game?
I think Oso Ighodaro is going to be vaguely interesting if you get Mark Williams out. I mean, right now at 3,300, he does come out to me, come in lineups for me a little bit at about an 11% rate as a guy that, 3,300, not a great producer at about 0.8 fantasy points per minute, but he's cheaper than a Dembona, who's also going to pick up some ownership and not be a great producer. And, he's, I would say, direct price point pivot to a lot of the Warriors value that we might want to get to. That's also kind of speculative and not going to feel the best. So Ighodaro, I think I could take some shots on. I can't imagine overloading on him no matter what, because like Josh mentioned, you do want to have some swap ability today, and this is the first game on the slate. But I think Ighodaro right now looks like an okay value. It look like a better value if you do get Mark Williams out. And on Philadelphia side, I think Maxey's worth whatever ownership you can kind of get his way. I have about 15% right now. Fields at 14. It's not a big stand there, but I do think the 50-point projection that he has right now, there's only about 3 guys on the slate that project for 50 or more. So getting to Maxey, I think feels good. Would definitely feel better if Paul George were out, but his rate should take an uptick with no Embiid. So I don't want to be boxed out on him because I want to have flexibility. I think for Maxey, he's worth getting some of those looks. And Paul George himself, if he does play, about a 12% play for me, I think he's okay. But like you mentioned, not the biggest stands here. I don't think it's worth, loading up any of these guys necessarily. But I do think there's some valid plays here that maybe people skip over because they want to have that flexibility. And I get it, but I think, those 3 guys in particular are all worth some ownership to me.
Yeah, it's a tricky game. That those 2 Q tags will matter quite a bit because I'll feel a lot better about having any sort of Tyrese Maxey if Paul George just happens to be out. It's like, okay, cool. Like it locks at 7, but whatever. At least it's Tyrese Maxey. He's probably going to play 40 minutes. The Mark Williams Q tag is really interesting because 3,300 for Ighodaro, not exactly the best per minute guy. They have more centers, in the line of fire for Phoenix, depending on who they want to trot out there today. You give him a couple extra minutes and he starts to be like a decent enough value to lock in at 3,300, knowing you could rotate around it a little bit later. He will be tricky if and when we get that Mark Williams news. I don't know how much else I'm going to care about. I think Drummond could be at least a little interesting if he happens to get the start over Bona, since he's such a significantly better per minute dude. Devin Booker, I had some interest in yesterday as like a sleeper. It didn't really work out. He just stayed asleep. There's another guy, no ownership today, but being the first game, I don't really want to go that way. To me, this is like the only thing that I like is Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that too feels like, you put up 60 yesterday, you had to have them. Like it does feel like people might go there a little bit more today for that reason. But, obviously I think the ownership is going to hold at 14%. I think it's a little bit light. But I think for Phoenix too, like you mentioned Booker, getting Jalen Green in, even if he's going to play, 20 minutes because his hamstring being such an issue that he came back in with the hamstring, hurt it immediately right away. I presume they want to keep him safe right now. But he was gunning. He had a 38% use rate the little bit that he did play this year. So like, I think it's not great to get another high usage guard into the mix when you have seen, Gillespie, you have seen Dylan Brooks, you have seen Grayson Allen have upside lately. And Booker's been deferring a lot to those guys already. So you add Jalen Green to the mix. I just don't think it's a great combo, but I'm with you at Iguodala. Like I think is the one decision point you might have here. And if he were to get any ownership, if like Mark Williams were to be sitting and Iguodala were to get chalkier, then Nick Richards also looms at 3K as like your pivot off of that. So there's some fun things potentially, or I wouldn't even say fun. There's some things potentially if Mark Williams is out, but nothing here looks like it's going to be a must have, I think, no matter what.
No, I got a bit more Bona than I would like to have right now. So I'm hoping this news cleans that up in some way. Only other guy that I'm over the field on in this game is Tyrese Maxey. He's projected 14. I've got 28. I couldn't be happier about that. That's the stand I'm going to take. That is the stand I'm going to take. I don't see another name in there that I'm super worried about until we get additional news. The FanDuel side of this one, also something we need to touch on. Let me set up these filters quickly, because this one's different. VJ Edgecombe, about 25% owned on FanDuel. Paul George, 25% owned on FanDuel. Tyrese Maxey is $10,400 and just 15% owned on the FanDuel side. And then oddly enough, Drummond and Bona, same exact price, even with Bona projected for 5 more minutes. Drummond, the guy pulling higher optimal rates and higher ownership. Everybody else in the game sub 10%, but a lot more ownership coming into Philly on FanDuel in comparison to DraftKings. I don't like that either. I don't want a 25% owned VJ Edgecombe in the opener on the FanDuel side. I don't like that at all.
Would feel better if Paul George were out. I think like at that point, I'm open to these wings a little bit more, but yeah, with him in, I agree. That's a tough one. He came down a lot for me drafting protection wise too, because I think Stokastic knocked the minutes down a little bit. So yeah, I agree with you.
And like, he's fine in that regard for FanDuel. I just don't like it from locking it in at 7:00. I mean, he's going to play a ton, whether Paul George plays or not. It's just the one guy that I would be willing to kick down the road a little bit. Clippers Bulls, not a game I'm excited to talk about other than maybe one thing. And that thing is James Harden, 9,900, 30% owned. Bit of negative leverage right now, but the matchup in this one, about as good as it can typically get. After that, 20% ownership to Ivica Zubac at 7K. Again, great matchup for him. And that will do it. 3.9% ownership to Kobe White is the next highest owned dude. This game is Harden and Zoo and nothing else. And that is happening for what seems like one very clear reason. Josh Giddey is questionable. He's been out for ages. All of these guys have much higher salaries than they did prior to him being out. And if he's back, all these dudes are overpriced. And that's why we're seeing no ownership. Let's start on the Clippers side. What do you want to do with Harden and Zoo?
Yeah, I think getting both these guys, I mean, for me, Harden with the field, Zubac is one of those guys where currently I've got him at about 30% exposure. It might be closer to 50 when we get to lock, because I do think a center, not a place I'm super dying to get to. And Zubac just put up 1.2 fantasy points a minute this year with no Kawhi, no Bogdanovich out there. I'm sure you could maybe split it even further for Derek Jones, but it doesn't seem necessary. For Zubac, I think that's the biggest thing is like he does gain an appreciable amount rate-wise, gains a few percentage points of usage. The rebounding gets even fractionally better, gains a little bit of assist. I think that all looks good for him. Harden is as well. I mean, I wish he were priced more where he normally is. Seems like he's now priced up already in anticipation of Kawhi, continuing to be out. 9,900, I feel like you're not really getting the discount there, as opposed to Zubac at 7K on DraftKings. But, Harden, I'm getting at 30%. I think these are both really good plays. It's a little bit surprising to not see the Clippers total be somewhat higher. I feel like the game total as well at 226.5 combined here kind of screams to me, more Clippers pace as opposed to Bulls pace, where the Bulls are playing about 6 possessions faster per game. And, with not great defense, Clippers also, not great defense, but the slow pace kind of masked that a little bit. It seems like, to me with the total, I just it doesn't seem like a screaming out, hey, the Clippers are going to run like crazy here, as if they're playing, a Wizards caliber team or something like that. But I think you're right. Like Harden, Zubac on the Clippers side, that's it. Jordan Miller, vaguely interesting, but more of a 5% play, if that. And on the Bulls side, they're just not priced for Giddey to be back in. Giddey himself, the price tag's a little bit cheaper than it would be normally, but his minutes should be down a little bit if he does go. So really hard to like anything here with Chicago caught in no man's land. And the Clippers, I think besides Zubac, they're now fully priced. Like Jordan Miller at 5,400 is jarring to see. They're fully priced for no Kawhi.
Yeah, I have Harden, Zoo, and essentially randomness after that. 27% Harden, 22% Zoo. So it sounds like we're in a similar spot there. And then 2 random Jordan Miller lineups, a random Kobe White lineup, a random John Collins lineup. All of that that could turn into anybody else here. That could be Chris Dunn and Kobe Sanders by the time I rerun it. But it's going to be Harden and Zubac. And I really just don't see the path to anything else here. If we get Giddey out again, do you think that's going to unlock anything real for the Bulls? I mean, Kobe White's 6,800. Jalen Smith is 6,300 right now. Vooch is already 8K. I'm not confident that if Giddey's out, it really matters all that much on the Bulls end.
I think it would make Kobe White come up a little bit more in a tournament lineup at 6,800, because he does right now I have him for 32.6 fantasy points. Stokastic has him for 32.3. So you take Giddey off for probably getting close to 35 or so, and I think that'd be enough for him to come up a little bit. But I don't think he'd be one of the best plays on the slate. I think he'd just be a guy that you get, as opposed to the 5% I'm getting now, I'd get him at 10%, 15 maybe if we really got aggressive on the projection. But they're expensive. Jalen Smith, like you mentioned, 6,300. Power forward center is nice, but it's a really expensive price tag for him. Vooch at 8K. Even Buzelis, who's I think has been the biggest winner with Giddey off the court based on him gaining enough usage wise, rebound wise, even assist wise, at 6,100. I don't think he's playable with Giddey in, but if Giddey's out, he is borderline playable. But yeah, I don't know that these guys would actually look good. I just think Kobe White would be probably the most playable of the group if you got Giddey out.
Yeah, he probably jumps to the 10-ish% optimal from the 6 that he's sitting at now. And he'll be, you won't hate if you have him, but giant pace down spot, not a great matchup in terms of game script wise for Kobe White. FanDuel side for this one. We switch to Clippers and Bulls. A little bit more ownership coming in here to James Harden. 9,900 on FanDuel, 45% owned. Then we get a $6,600 Ivica Zubac at about 25% owned. Reminder, there's only one center spot there, so he's taking up a quarter of it. John Collins gets to around 10. Chris Dunn gets to around 10. It's the same story for the Bulls here, though. Absolutely no ownership coming into anybody. And if Josh Giddey ends up in, there's just not going to be ownership to Chicago. They are essentially a cross-off team today.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad about that.
I agree. They don't stand out at all. And the Clippers, I think, very playable on both sides as well, but it does seem like most of the juice is squeezed out of Harden. His optimal rate's pretty low compared to the ownership. And Zubac, I think part of his appeal to me is I think he's under-owned on DraftKings right now. On FanDuel, he's more than appropriately owned. So not as advantageous of a spot, even though, I get getting the Harden and Zubac on there.
Relatively uninteresting games so far, and the ownership that's coming in are to the people that should absolutely be getting it. We haven't had to talk about anything too crazy just yet, and we're not going to be doing that in this one. The highest owned guy in the San Antonio Spurs Houston Rockets game is 8.9% to Dylan Harper at 4K. Everybody else is 5 or below. 221 total here. Rockets 4.5-point favorites. We are waiting on a piece of news. Tari Eason, questionable for this one. He's been in and out as of late. Don't know if he's going to be playing or not today. Steven Adams already out. He's going to miss a stretch. Probably going to start to see Clint Capella getting some more backup run. Devin Vassell still out for the Spurs, but there is no love to this game at all. Do you find it sneakier than the ownership is?
Castle's coming up a little bit more for me at 6,900. He's a guy that I have, hit on enough this year that when he pops up a little bit in my data, I'm willing to be there somewhat. But, popping up to me right now means about 10% sim ownership compared to 5.5% for the field expected by Stokastic. So not a big stand on Castle, but on this game, getting 10% of him is really like a high mark because none of the other guys, like Josh intimated, really coming up meaningfully. Wemby, I'm getting 1% of the fields at 2. I feel like with the minutes at 28.7 from Stokastic, earlier they had him closer to 30, and that might be a little bit aggressive. Even then, he didn't look super playable. With the minutes are going to be at 29, he looks even less playable. Obviously, he could hit big upside in a short amount of minutes theoretically, but in terms of the projection, it's just hard for me to get there at a 10K salary. Nothing else in the Spurs popping up. Houston side, I do think Şengün, Durant, and Thompson would look more playable if we got Tari Eason out, just losing some usage, some rebound opportunity. But these guys, I think, all pretty expensive still. And having Adams out, I feel like not the big uptick in production or rates for any of these guys in a way that would help them out any meaningful amount. So yeah, this game to me is one of those where like, yeah, if you told me a tournament lineup had 4 players from it, I'd be like, well, I'm not surprised because nobody wanted to play it. And that's like the only reason why. But projection wise, like nothing here looks good. I mean, Castle, Dylan Harper, the only guys I have is even a 5x value in the game. So I don't see a reason to be here besides just, nobody's going to play it. Maybe things get weird.
Castle and Dylan Harper are the only guys that I have as 5x values as well. Castle just barely. Harper gets it relatively easily. I've got 12% of Alperen Şengün, so I guess a bit of a 2x stand. And then 10% of Dylan Harper. I just have a little bit of everybody. Like I've got a couple lineups with Şengün, Harper, Jabari, Keldon, Castle, Durant, Barnes, Wemby. I even have one-offs of Fox and Amen Thompson. That's how I feel about this game. There's like 10 different guys that are at different positions and salary tiers, and I don't really care which one of them shows up in my lineup. But I think something is representative in this game. I like the idea of having a bit more of Şengün in this spot. It's not the first time I've said that on this show. Probably won't be the last time I say that on this show. There's just nothing else to get to today. Like I can't look at this and be like, you know what? I need Harrison Barnes. It's just not that game.
Yeah, it's an ugly total, and both teams' sides too aren't particularly good, and it's not a high pace spot on either side, and the defenses on both teams are better than league average. So yeah, I'm with you. Like it's a tough game, and it's one of those spots where it's like the entire field's going to overlook it too. So I think that's really it's really the only validity for it. And I'm with you. Like getting a Şengün to hit, getting a Castle to hit. I mean, those two I think I would favor the most based on my exposures as well. But like if a De'Aaron Fox hit, if a Durant hit at like really low ownership, it's all possible. It's just projection wise, and even accounting for standard deviation and all that, I just don't see how these guys are going to come up that much.
Nope. And they lock at 8. There's 4 more games after this. I just find this entire game like a giant sea of last dudes in. That's the way that I'm looking at this one, at least as of right now. Do you want to take any shot? There's only one thing I think worth talking about here. Do you want to take any shots on Clint Capella?
No, that's not really a thought that's occurred for me too much. I mean, I didn't get him coming up as optimal too often because I think a 14-minute projection from Stokastic, 3,300. I mean, I got him for 14.1 fantasy points, which might be a little bit higher than Stokastic. I mean, it is a little bit higher than Stokastic has. He's not coming up for me with that. I could see the logic with some of the other guys that, we're going to talk that we've talked about in the slate already, like even in a Iguodaro type. But I think projection wise, I do have Iguodaro clear of Capella. I don't see it. I feel like if Eason's out, it would feel a little bit safer. But with Capella, I'm just not sure he's actually guaranteed. He's definitely not guaranteed the run Adams is getting.
No, if Eason's out, I think it starts to become a little bit more of a talking point because he's not going to get any love. But any foul trouble for Şengün can grab him a couple extra minutes. He's a good enough per minute guy that it's not like it takes a ton. We have a bunch of other weird center dudes today, so it's going to keep him from ever getting looked at. And now that Adams is going to be out for like a decent chunk of time, it seems like he's going to miss probably like 2 weeks, 3 weeks with that sprained ankle. I'm curious to see if they run any double bigs here with both of them. It wouldn't shock me if Clint Capella played 20 minutes today. And if that's the case, he's just not going to get looked at properly. It also wouldn't shock me if he plays like 6 minutes and Jabari Smith is just the backup center for most of this. I think that's the path too. He's in my brain today because we don't know what they're going to do just yet.
That makes sense. I mean, the uncertainty for sure. I think with Capella, like there could be some positive for him. I just think the pathway to that uncertainty being positive would feel a lot better if Easton were out. Because I'm with you. I think Jabari Smith just ends up getting more minutes out of this, or more secure run out of it. Like they haven't showed a ton of love for playing Capella in the same way as Adams. Like it feels like even when there's been one big missing, like it just hasn't gotten to that same level unless everybody's out, unless Adams and Şengün are out, then Capella really gets the run. Uncertainty. You might need the big more than you would in other spots too in this matchup.
Yeah. Kind of the same story on the FanDuel end for this one. 11% ownership to Jabari Smith, power forward center, 6K. And then everybody else 6 or below. So whatever the tune is you're singing today on San Antonio and Houston, it's the same across both of these sites. 7 o'clock in the books. 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the books. Relatively uninteresting games, but business is about to pick up. Hit the like button if you haven't done it yet. Subscribe to the channel. Now is a great time for you to do that. And if you're interested, and I think that you should be, if I can find the proper screen to click on, and right now we're just in an NFL game, so I haven't found it yet.
Who are we stacking up today?
This one. This will work. Click the link in the description of this video if you want to sign up at Stokastic. Today is the perfect NBA slate to explain why you guys should be using our tools. When you can use late swap like it is today for the way that we have these games, you will not find more edge in anything you do than using this tool to do that. We are uniquely set up today to be able to help you out on DFS slates where late swaps matter more than anything you could do. And we can make it very easy. You won't pay us a cent. Click the link, sign up through a partner. You get a month for free for everyone you sign up for. It's that simple. You can sign up for 4 of them. You would get 4 months so long as you are available to sign up for it. All the instructions are on the page. Click the link, folks. Come on in. Put yourself in a better position to win today's slate. We back. I got there.
Crushed it.
Now we got it. We're ready for it here. Minnesota and Utah. The first of the nonsense potential is here. We'll start on the Minnesota side. It's a 14.5 point line in Utah. 241 total. The clear biggest total for today. Naz Reid on the injury report. He's available. That was up in the air earlier, not so much now. Jazz have their injury report out. Bryce Sensabaugh out. Kevin Love out for rest. Lauri Markkanen continues his illness. And then that is what we know of right now. We're assuming Keontae George, Yusuf Nurkic, Ace Bailey, Cody Williams, and Svi Mykhailiuk would be the starters today for the Jazz. Keep an eye on that one. That's why you want a late swap, because they could very easily yank and pull out the rug from underneath Yusuf Nurkic, and all of a sudden he's not starting. Right now, we have 30% ownership coming into Walter Clayton at 3,700. He comes off the bench for the Jazz. 30% more coming into Julius Randle, 20% more coming into Ant, 10% for Jaden McDaniels and Keontae George. 4 of those names make perfect sense to me. The Walter Clayton one is going to be a talking point. So let's start with that one. Assuming we get the lineup that we have in now for the Jazz, is Walter Clayton Jr. your favorite Utah player today?
Yeah, he's the one I'm getting the most exposure to. I mean, there's not real value on the slate. 3,700, like he looks good. I mean, same reason that Will Richard, who's now also a Q tag for Golden State. But him, at his price tag, shooting guard eligibility also comes up. You just kind of need these players to build the players that can actually spike around it. And at shooting guard, it is sort of a dead position today where it seems like really obvious to take the value at that spot. You figure out other positions. Walter Clayton's been a good producer on the year, 0.86 fan sports a minute, counting for the total in the matchup and who's available today with no marketing to have him at 0.91. And he played 31 minutes yesterday. So, the spot here maybe doesn't quite get to 31, but if he does get you to the 24 minutes Stokastic has projected, let alone 31, he's going to look pretty good. So Clayton's one of the best values on the slate. The Nurkic thing, I'm just baffled by. Like, I know he played yesterday, but what is going on? Why did he not play a couple games where he wasn't on the injury report? I thought they were calling off the vets. And then I'd said that on my show today and I looked it up and like, oh, he played yesterday. I just don't know what they're doing.
Tanking in optimal tank situations when they can.
Oh, so you think they didn't play him in particular in those spots because they were more winnable spots?
No, the opposite. They really wanted to make sure they lost in those spots.
Oh, so what, they play him when they want to lose?
No, they play him when they don't play him in situations where they desperately want to make sure the other team doesn't win.
Okay, that's what I was thinking initially. Okay,
like other teams that are tanking, they want to try to out tank. In a matchup like this, I think they just play Nurkic and get the shit kicked out of them because it doesn't matter whether Nurk plays or not. They're 2 touchdown dogs. That said, I hope he doesn't play. It's in everybody's best interest right now for Yusuf Nurkic to not be named the starter at 8:30 tonight. You should you should be so happy. And if he happens to get out there off the bench for the first, I didn't see it coming. But we want him to be out because nothing will provide you more value today than if he is.
Yeah, he doesn't look like, it's weird that his price tag's up to 7,400. Like amidst all of this, amidst the getting yanked around and stuff, like I feel like he should have had one of those algorithmic price falls that kind of occur. But the field's at 3%. If he's going to actually play, I feel like there's more upside in trying to play him a little bit and hope you can capture, him hitting a ceiling. I only have him, I think being a part of winning a lineup 3% of the time. So I don't know that it's like an interesting thing to get there. But if your logic is, is sound and he does start, there's definitely more opportunity to go around with him marketing out there.
The Clayton one strikes me as scary. Problem here is he's in 57% of my lineups, so it doesn't seem to be affecting the way that I get to him. Now, that is live to move around massively because of late swaps. I'm just happy to have a ton of him, and whatever I have by the time we get to 9 o'clock, I don't particularly care. I'm just happy to have the ability to move it around. What else are you getting here? I'm relatively neutral to Julius Randle, but I am slightly under Anthony Edwards, which I do not like. But I am slightly over on Rudy Gobert, who feels like he's in a pretty good spot. And if Yusuf Nurkic isn't the starter, Rudy Gobert might have 20 rebounds in the first half.
Yeah. Gobert versus Filipowski would not be the most fair combo to have there. The T-Wolves, look, it's a really good total with the 126.5 implied points here for them. The game's combined total, one of the highest on the slate, or I think is still the highest on the slate. So you could see the upside in the way that could happen for Randall. Randall, this price tag 8,200, not someone I'm super stoked to get to normally. But I do think for the 28% ownership, I'm getting 21. Does feel like on this slate, power forward, his price tag, like he does fit pretty well in a lot of lineups. So I'm getting to Randall about 21% with the field of 28, getting Edwards at 14%, Fields at 20. I don't have these guys super well projected, like especially Ant, like I'm about 2 fantasy points lower than Stokastic has them. But I do think in the spot where you have the massive total, you have the spot against Utah. You have a Utah team that's also not going to play a lot of defense, and it technically is going to be a slight pace up. I think it's worth getting to as much as the field's getting for Ant and Julius Randle, because with that total being that high, the odds are that one of these guys might have a ceiling day, or at least a little bit higher chance of that happening. Jaden McDaniels, I think, also looks okay, but for me, it's like Ant, Randle, Jaden McDaniels, a little bit of Keontae George, and then endless amounts of Walter Clayton. So I think not too dissimilar from what you said.
Yeah, I will not go into lock with 10% of Ant. I'll just make sure that I have a little bit more because he could give them 30 in the first half with minimal effort if this breaks correctly, because they're just going to be ghost town shit potentially, which I love. How do you feel about Keontae George, though? Because he seems to be the one guy that really isn't affected by all of this and kind of just has the keys to the car whenever he wants them. 8,100 here. Realistically, like, Utah wins this game 20% of the time. Should we be more interested in Keontae George?
I like the ceiling for Keontae George. I mean, it does feel like the kind of matchup where you're not super stoked to get him, knowing they have really good wing defenders to throw at him. And, he certainly can find his depth in those spots, but he's really good this year. I mean, a 28% usage rate rounding up, 31% assist rate, 61% true shooting. So, and he's hitting from the free throw line and from three. He's doing everything you need him to do as like a lead, ball handler. Defensively, I'm sure not going to be able to hold up, but offensively he is. But I don't think the rates take enough of an uptick for having Markkanen off. I mean, the usage for him, it goes to just a higher version of 28% rounded up. The assist rate comes down a little bit without having Markkanen out there. Some of that two-man game going away, probably not great. For Keontae George, I don't mind him, but I just don't think it sucks. Like, I don't think he becomes like a much better play. The days I like the Jazz are when they're entirely unowned and it's like the other people are playing it like, oh, they're going to get blown out. And you have Keontae and Markkanen. I think they end up being kind of a potent, 1-2 punch to go to in lineups. But I'm above on Keontae George by a little bit, but I don't think he'll be a priority play because I think the situation's priced and his rates just don't come up enough with Markkanen off the court.
With Markkanen off, George gets a 0.9% usage bump. He scores about 2 more points per 75 possessions, which is like essentially 36 minutes. With Lauri on the floor, 2.5 more assists per 75 possessions on than off. So, certainly, which isn't shocking. There aren't that many dudes that can make a bucket for the Jazz. When you want assists, you probably want the dudes that can actually score. And Markkanen doesn't do a damn thing by himself. He's like the most premier play finisher in the league. Not surprised to see that. Yeah, he's just, quite a bit better with Lauri Markkanen on the floor. And that's not all that shocking. You take Markkanen off, you're playing a lot of really crappy NBA players, and it shows. I'd like to have a little bit more than him for him. I only have about 5%. Mark Williams, available to play. Really wanted him to just be out.
Yeah, I would have felt a little better about what Iguodaro I'm getting, but I'm kind of surprised he's playing too. I think the back-to-backs for him have not been the most consistent in the world.
Do you want to roll the dice on anybody else from Utah? Or is this just a situation where, like, the answer is yes, you just don't know who it's going to be quite yet because maybe they do some nonsense? Like, do you like anything else?
Nonsense and open things up a little bit more. I think that would be something that I'm open to if they have a weird starter or something. Because you're taking Markkanen off, you're taking Sensabaugh off, which I know is not like the biggest thing to a lot of people out there, but that's a guy that does get shots up with decent efficiency in the mid range in particular. So I think I'm open to getting other Jazz stuff, but to me, like, Keontae George, single-digit ownership, and like we talked about, the rates maybe not that good with Markkanen off the court. He's not there to create the spacing, not there to hit shots because everybody else on the team is under a league average shooter. I think taking that shot's like ballsy enough for it relative to the ownership. And Walter Clayton is a value, definitely not going to be a hot take of a value play, but I think that's all that stands out to me right now.
We're on the same page. If I had more to talk about from the Jazz, I would mention it. But the next most exposure that I have to someone on the Jazz that isn't Clayton is Keontae George at 7. And then I just have like a random Ace Bailey lineup. So it's a tough spot to get to at this moment. If we take a look at this game on the FanDuel side, we've got about 25% ownership coming into Dante DiVincenzo, a name that we did not mention on the DraftKings end. So he's a much better play on FanDuel. Then we get Edwards, Randall, and Gobert right around 15, along with Isaiah Collier for Utah, which just feels random. But so does Walter Clayton on the DraftKings side. Walter Clayton on FanDuel, for everybody that's curious, 9% owned. I scrolled down all the way and he was just under Isaiah Collier. That was so stupid. 9% owned for Clayton on the FanDuel side. 25 on the DraftKings end. So if you're hearing this, remember, very different play across both sites.
Yeah. DiVincenzo, just not a guy that was on my DraftKings radar a little bit, but he really does look like the play you want the most on FanDuel because that price tag is not Not fully correct.
4.5% owned on DraftKings, and the most owned guy in this game on FanDuel. Giant disparities. And then flip flop Walter Clayton, because it's the same thing in the opposite direction. So now we're through 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. We close this slate out with 3 games locking at 10 o'clock. Now, the first of which I could take or leave, but we're going to break it down one way or the other. Lakers, Nuggets. I just want the Nuggets to be healthy again. It's a really unfun team to pay attention to when Nikola Jokic isn't healthy. It's just cooler when he's around. No Austin Reeves on the Lakers side, no Cam Johnson, Christian Brown, Joe Val, or Jokic on the Nuggets side. Everybody that is on the injury report is probable for the Nugs. Gordon, Murray, Tim Hardaway Jr. We're getting 30% ownership to Aaron Gordon. We're getting 15 apiece on a 11.5 Luka and a $9,700 Jamal Murray. Jalen Green will play limited minutes off the bench. Nobody else in this game outside of Gordon, Luka, and Murray have more than 7% ownership. How do you feel about the chalk on Aaron Gordon today?
I'm going to get him in like half my lineups, I think, if not a little bit more. I think he looks like a really good play. He's produced 1.2 plus fantasy points per minute with having Jokic, Joe Val, Brown, and Cam Johnson off the court. And obviously, that's not the biggest sample size. It's like 350 possessions. So it'd be nice if he had a little bit more to feel fully confident about that. But it does seem like a lot of the stats just sort of come together for him in ways where, Jamal Murray, kind of the same thing as we talked about with Keontae George, where he's just a little bit less effective, with Jokic and those guys off the court because the spacing's not there as much, more defensive attention coming his way, that kind of stuff. I feel like the fact Jamal Murray has had the massive outlier days lately has kind of thrown people off the scent of the fact that like his rates aren't fantastic when you get to the smaller groups of Nuggets. So I'm still willing to take the ceiling there, but the fact that Jamal Murray is at 20%, 22% ownership, and Gordon's at 29, like I feel a lot better about Gordon at his price tag with how he's produced, where the fantasy per minute numbers for Murray and Gordon with the various Nuggets off the court, they're a lot closer than I think they should be. That might stabilize more, go more Jamal Murray's way. But I think for Aaron Gordon, like he's been good. The minutes are secure. Projected to play 31 minutes today. So I think he's a really strong play. And yeah, Murray, I'm under the field on by a little bit, getting 15%. The field's at 22. Peyton Watson, I'm actually getting more of than Murray, getting him at 15%, rounding down there. And Fields at 4%. I like Peyton Watson with the usage that he gains. But I think out of if you told me I could only take one player from this game, I think it's Aaron Gordon. I think he looks like an absolute priority core play for me today.
Aaron Gordon is my most exposed player in this game, 35% at this moment. So I'm even a little bit north of that ownership mark. 27% of Jamal Murray. So I'm not having any real trouble getting up and over that, which I'm more than cool with. Lakers defense is crap. And I got to 20% of Luka, but I had to force that a little bit. I'm happy to have even more, again, just because of late swap opportunities. I can turn this into something else if need be, if that lineup needs some changing. At 10 o'clock, I would not mind having more Luka Doncic than the field by a considerable margin and then figuring out what to do with it after that. After those top 3 guys, though, that are here in ownership, Gordon, Doncic, Murray, I barely have it. And that seems to be in line with the field. So Watson is your stand here, right? That's the one guy that you're getting to that isn't really pulling much.
Yeah, I mean, he's not getting anything, and I've got him at 15%, so that's the one. With Luka, I do think there's something interesting with him that you just can't afford him easily on the slate, and that does keep the ownership in check more. And I feel like it's one of those things for me where when I'm the same as the field, like when Jokic is going to be mega chalk on the slate and he looks good and he's coming up 50% owned, I'm like, I'll get that 50%, maybe a little bit more, not feel bad about it. But I think the players like Jokic, like Luka Doncic, when they're the most appealing is when there's no ownership on them because the field can't comfortably get there. And if that guy hits 70, you probably had to have him, but the field just didn't play him enough to account for that outcome. I think that's what Luka is on the slate, and the minutes for Stokastic came up a little bit in the most recent run. So he is coming up, at 15% for the field. I'm getting him at 16, but I do think that's a pretty big difference between him and all the other 9K guards that are going to be like 20% plus owned. I just don't think people are going to get so that Luka build is naturally. So in this spot, going to Luka, I think is pretty appealing. And, in a perfect world, Luka and Peyton Watson hitting at low ownership or relatively low ownership compared to what I'll have, I think would be nice. But I just think, even LeBron, like I'm not crazy about him with Luka in, but he's been rebounding again lately, which is like a positive. I think part of the reason I thought it was like a business decision for him to not rebound earlier in the year, because, you know, he's been hurt and all that. But I think it just might've been that he was like really hurt and like didn't want to crash and couldn't do it. And now he's like feeling better and can do it. Granted, he's had a few games without Luka as well, so that probably helps out a little bit. Yeah, the Lakers, I think, are really compelling tournament options, like the top two of Luka and LeBron, because they don't seem as owned as they should be for a game where I think the Lakers are kind of surprising to me to be a 2.5-point favorite in altitude at Denver.
I mean, I think that's just what happens when Nikola Jokic and the rest of these idiots just aren't around. I want something else from the Lakers. Like, I liked looking at LeBron. I don't really have much. I'm having trouble getting to like the Tim Hardaway, Marcus Smart, like area of players, that like mid 4K range. Just I don't seem to be hitting it. Spencer Jones, another guy that like plays real minutes, that's just useless here. I think I'm only going to be focused on these top three guys, but I can feel myself regretting not having more Bron. I don't know. I just feel it in my. I'm starting to feel a LeBron day today. I don't know why.
He's turned a corner lately. Like I thought he was going to be dust when he started the year, and like all his rates were down and just like the production wasn't there. But with the sciatica / whatever other injuries he had, like maybe a bigger deal. But I feel like eye test wise, results wise, I think he's looking a little bit more like he's rounding into form. But it's interesting. Like this game is weird because there's only 4 players in the both sides here that project for over 1 fantasy point or play normally at that pace in this game. And Peyton Watson, I would make the case, like with the guys out, he's more like that kind of player. There's really not a lot of pivots, like unless you're going to go to DeAndre Ayton, and that doesn't seem like a move.
On the FanDuel end, it is largely the same story. 20% ownership to Aaron Gordon, 18 for Jamal Murray, about 15 for Luka Doncic, and then about 15 for your boy Peyton Watson. LeBron at 6, everybody else minimal. So at least on the surface, FanDuel and DraftKings are in alignment for Denver and the Lakers. Similar ownership, same focus, similar people that you're paying closest attention to. But that game, not as interesting as the other two that we're about to get to. 2 left to go here on this slate. We have 2 left that lock at 10 o'clock, and that's what we're going to touch on right now. Toronto and Golden State, the Raptors and the Warriors. This is a Golden State Warriors team playing their first game without Jimmy Butler, and he will not be back anytime soon, and more than likely will never step foot on the floor again for the Golden State Warriors. This is creating quite a bit of ownership in this game. And we have some other news on top of it. For the Toronto side, still no RJ Barrett, still no Jacoby Walter, still no Jakob Poeltl, no Colin Murray-Boyles as well. So that's 4 legitimate rotation pieces, including their starting center and their backup center. On the Warriors end, no Al Horford, obviously no Jimmy Butler, Draymond questionable, Guy Santos questionable, Will Richard questionable. This is the game that is ready to just drop an absolute bomb on the slate and wreck it from top to bottom. This is the one you want to have a ton of in some way and figure it out later. 55% ownership to Podziemski, 35 to Moses Moody, 15 more for Richard, Melton, Post, Curry, Draymond, Brandon Ingram, and we have 20 coming in to the $5,400 Sandro Mamukelashvili, who should be able to just do whatever he wants to do out there as their only real center. Apologies to Jonathan Mobo, but this should be Mamu's job here. Let's start on the Toronto side because I think it's a little bit easier to talk about. I assume you're more than okay with getting some Mamu today, given the status.
Yeah, I've gotten him a 1.5 higher projection-wise than Stokastic. I mean, it stood out to me that we have a pretty decent sample size at this point for no Barrett, no Poeltl on the court. About 850 possessions for the top guys on the team, including 860 for Mamu. He's put up 1.07 fantasy points per minute this year with those guys off the court. And that's exactly the same as Brandon Ingram has. Ingram has shot a little bit poorly in those times without him. 54% true shootings. That's probably going to get better. But Mamu's been producing second best in the team, tied with Ingram behind Barnes, obviously. Like he's going to be the top producer. I think no matter what configuration you get to, but Mamu's been good. So the fact that you have Murray Boyles out, the fact you have Pirtle out, and the fact that Mobo's like your pivot point, a guy that they seemingly have not wanted to play as much, I think Mamu is one of the better mid-tier options on the slate at 5,400. So I got him at 28%. I think practically it might be closer to like 40% when I get to lock, because he's one of those players I think will come up a little bit more naturally as I move the exposures around. But I feel pretty good about Mamu, and I think that he's one of the better plays on the slate overall. But Ingram, I still got at 15%. Quickly, I got at 8. Barnes, I got at 9. So a little bit above on Barnes, and Ingram a little bit low on Quickly. I feel like these guys are priced really aggressively today with, obviously they've had Barrett out for a while. I've had Pirtle out for a while, but I just don't see the Barnes price tag feeling awesome at 9,400. Ingram, same thing at just shy of 8K. So these guys are like mix-ins for me, getting them, not as core plays in the portfolio as opposed to like a Mamu type. But yeah, like the spot's good going against Golden State. Golden State was like thrived yesterday against Miami, kind of riding high off the emotions. And like, we'll talk about Golden State in a minute, but Podziemski like went nuts in that game because he was chirping with the Miami bench, hit a bunch of threes in their face. It got them going. That was a big part of them, creating separation in the fourth quarter that held up. But this spot, I feel like maybe you get the letdown more from Golden State, and just, we'll see what the effort level is. Toronto should benefit, I think, from whatever chaos is going to go on the other side.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm like under a little bit on Mamu. Don't have much of Quickly, Ingram, or Barnes. That's just not something I'm going to allow to happen when I go into lock. At the very least, I will make sure that I'm, minimally neutral to all these dudes. Whether I have them at the end, who knows? As I've mentioned, great late swap day. But I don't want to go into this super light on them, even though I know I'm going to end up with more of them as we get there. I don't have anything great separating the Quicklies and the Ingrams and the Barnes from each other, so I just kind of want to get it and then figure it out later. Mamu, to me, is just very clearly the easiest Raptor to get to. And then we get to the Warriors, who we, can guess on a starting lineup. We've seen Butler be out, but the Q tags are massive. Will Richard, Draymond, Guy Santos. Who knows how that breaks right now? At this moment, Podziemski is your chalk at 50-something% owned. How do you feel about him at 4,300?
I feel like it's tough because you're going to get the full crush of whatever his ownership would be because he put up 40 yesterday, and like it's happened to in a spot where Butler went out, so everybody's going to kind of follow that logical trail. But he projects super well. I mean, on the year going back to the entire season, he's played about 1,000 possessions, so should be mostly stable rate wise. Put up 20% usage, 19% assist rate, just shy of 1 fast work minute with Butler off the court. So if he gets more minutes and can hold on to them, I think he should be, relatively reliable at 4,300 as well. Like I have him making a winning lineup 68% of the time. So I do think that like the value he represents on a slate where a lot of the value is pretty specious. It feels good. But again, I just worry that ownership is really high. And like Podziemski is a guy that can miss shots, can run cold, can, not contribute in certain spots. And then you could easily have one of the other guys take minutes away or just, get more shots up. Like yesterday, Podziemski went nuts, but Steph Curry also had a lot of foul trouble in that game, did not produce super well. Butler got hurt in that spot. All it takes is the offense flowing away from Podziemski. And I think he could put up an okay day that might still make a winning lineup. But if he gives you like 20 as opposed to 25, 30, I do think you're getting into a more dangerous spot. But I'm above the field on him. And I'm curious your take on him because I feel like he's one of those plays on this slate. I presume your data will find him unavoidable.
Yeah, I'm right around the field on him right now, which is all I'm really asking for at this point. It's not the type of thing that I would ever want to be light on heading into lock. I don't know what that would get me. If that happens later, that's a different story, and I just need something else. But I will be right around the field on him. I also have a big 2x stand on Moody and a 2x stand on Will Richard right now. So I am soaking up as much of this value from Golden State as I can. 15% of Steph, 15% of Melton, even 15% of Draymond. I'm just going to try to get to as much of Golden State as I possibly can, and I'm going to worry about it much later. Because like if Draymond ends up out, Quentin Post is a completely different play. We start talking about like Trace Jackson Davis at the minimum instead of talking about like a Dembona that is playing 3 hours before that. Part of the reason I don't necessarily want to have a ton of a Dembona based on the way that this could all break, but I just want to have a lot of Golden State right now. There's not really anybody from the Warriors that I'm uninterested in. But there's probably one guy we should have a conversation about. Do you think Jonathan Kuminga steps foot on the floor for the Golden State Warriors tonight?
I mean, when I saw Stokastic gave him this morning like 16 minutes, I was like, oh, this is a pretty decent show of faith that he's going to make it in. And now in the update right before the show, he got bumped back down to 0.8 minutes. I would think, and I said it on my show this morning, my Splash Play show. I feel like for Kuminga, if he were starting, I'd be like, okay, like I trust it'll be in the rotation because he's starting. He'll get his opportunity. Like he should produce about 1 fantasy point per minute. And there's a lot of usage go around with no Butler out there, but it's like tough for me to see him playing. I think if Draymond's out, I could see that pathway happening more because I think like he and Butler, I don't think there's a big win minutes wise on paper for Butler being out. But if Draymond's out, then we kind of need that size a little bit more. And Kuminga playing power forward kind of fits in a little more naturally. So I don't know. I don't know what to think with it, but the fact that Stokastic's 2 minutes away, like I'm not going to bump him up in my data in the hopes that he does play because I think you're very likely to get that that Nurkic situation. He was out there like he was yesterday. He was like wearing shorts, like he wasn't. He was dressed like he was still there. So like they can play him. I know the poly market or whatever Kalshi, I forget which one it was, but like his trade markets like dropped exponentially. I think people expecting him to stay now. I don't know how that makes sense unless there's some sort of inkling, locally that he gets one more shot to be a part of this team because they could use it, I guess, at this point. But he's the one that's not coming up for me at all. Like at this point, I'd rather play Trace Jackson Davis over him because at least there's, especially if Draymond's out, at least there's like a direct pathway to minutes there.
I think it's easier to trade him in the offseason than it is in the next like 3 weeks is really the bigger problem for him getting shipped out. If Draymond ends up out and you're taking off a non-shooter in Draymond and a non-shooter in Jimmy Butler, I'm very curious if they're just going to let him rip at that point because they need it then. And I don't know if it's just like so sour or you use this as the opportunity to just be like, just to play him and make the Kings like him or something. Like, make sure that all the stupid teams that would want to trade for Jonathan Kuminga can get a look at him in these last 2 or 3 weeks. He's certainly somebody that we have to pay attention to later. I don't think it's worth paying attention to now. It could be at 9:30. So I'm anxious to see it. We got a super chat that we should be able to hit on very quickly from Smoothie. You're not going to like this answer, but he said, how do you feel about Heald, Sanders, and Grayson Allen? No interest, and no interest.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Heald outcome yesterday. I don't think you can roll those points forward. But yeah, those other guys, not really plays. Allen getting Jalen Green in, not good for him. Sanders has been a terrible producer. Heald, again, I think you got the outcome you wanted yesterday. But he'll have an opportunity, I guess, as opposed to the other two.
Yeah. Not dudes that I'm looking at in any way. Grayson Allen in particular, with Jalen Green back and that game being at 7:00, I can't even imagine clicking on him. So I'm sure he's going to make 9 threes.
Also, looking at Kuminga's numbers here, he's been so bad this year. And I know like the situation's not great, but like 52% true shooting rounding up, 32% from 3, 43% from the floor. He's rebounded a little bit more, but man, he's just not there. Like he needs to.
I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that he's just not good.
He's not that bad though. He's not like 7% less than league average true shooting bad, I don't think.
Like a fucking 8th guy on a shitty team. Who cares? I don't blame Steve. I'll trust Steve Kerr.
Yeah. You could be Sharif Abdul-Rahim in real life.
Yeah. I'll trust him on his assessment of Jonathan Kuminga. I don't want to trust him on like the things he says in an interview. 30% ownership to Moody on FanDuel, 25 to Melton, 25 to Barnes and Quickly. Draymond's 20, Curry's 20, Mamu 15 on FanDuel at 5,200, center only. Ingram is 15. Pajemski, not nearly the same, only 13% owned on FanDuel. But again, this one is live to change dramatically based on all of those Q tags. Get the ownership, late swap it, put yourself in the best possible spot. Final game, another 10:00 start. Miami Heat, Sacramento Kings. Kings are 3.5-point dogs at home. We have no Tyler Hero for the Heat. Khalil Ware, questionable. We'll talk about it. Keegan Murray still out for the Kings. Otherwise, they are at full strength. So for this one, on the DraftKings end, 30% ownership to Andrew Wiggins. Close to 30 for Norm Powell. About 20 for Bam. About 20 for Jaquez. About 10 for Davion Spags. And then everybody else in this game, sub 10%, including everybody on the Sacramento Kings. How are you feeling about these Heat? Because they play at a great pace. We might have some missing parts of their rotation, and they get to play the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, I think they look pretty good. The Heat side here, the fact that you are getting a good total, 121 points here implied for the Heat. The Kings, we know, one of the worst defenses in basketball, giving up about 120 points per 100 possessions. The Heat as well for guys like Bam. Like Bam had such a bad game yesterday. Like I do think there's a bit of a flop flag coming today where just him being back to normal at 7,500 with his rates with, a guy like Hero off the court, I think would be very helpful. But yeah, for Bam, for Powell, for Wiggins, for Jaquez, all these guys about 20% or more for me. For Powell and Wiggins, closer to 30. I think they all like decent plays. Wiggins looked rejuvenated, being back to being he's not the Barnacle of the Bay, but he gives off Barnacle of the Bay energy back in the Bay Area for him, playing well yesterday. But I think Wiggins, an okay play. Larson, even an okay play. Davion Mitchell, Spags, about a 9% play for me. They're coming up a lot here. I'm not usually a guy who gets the Heat often, but like you mentioned, just having a few more minutes to go around for guys, one less high usage player in the mix, and facing Sacramento is a pretty good recipe to getting a team like the Heat.
Yeah, I got 28% of Jaquez, 25 of Wiggins, 25 of Mitchell, 12 of Larson. I'm a little light on Powell. Figure that out later. I'm 2xing Bam. And I took Bam in King of the Court today. This is an amazing spot. I don't care if it's Sabonis out there for 24 minutes. I don't care if it's the French dude out there for 24 minutes. This is Bam. And if we're lucky, if Ware doesn't play, he could get an extra minute or two and play 34, 35, and then they just go to whatever else in that stretch. Loving Bam Adebayo today. We'll see. I like the $7,500 price tag. He's let me down pretty much every time I've taken him so far this year, but 10 o'clock start against the Kings. I want to park some of this ownership right here on Bam Adebayo. What I don't want to do is park any ownership on Sacramento, and I haven't. I don't have a single share of anybody that plays for the Kings.
I was getting Westbrook earlier. I think the minutes were a little bit higher for him in the data, and now they came down a little bit back to 30.4 minute projection. He's not coming up for me. Westbrook has a ceiling, I think, in this spot. Pace up spot against a team on a back-to-back, I think is kind of situation where Westbrook can pay off. But he's only coming up 4% for me. Nothing else in the team I have winning very much in terms of getting into winning lineups. Dylan Cardwell as a value, I suppose, vaguely playable. But honestly, I feel like people in YouTube chat like him a lot more than he actually has played well this year. He's only producing 0.98 fantasy points a minute. He's not exactly Day'Ron Sharp out there. He's just kind of a guy. Yes, if I'm not getting Westbrook here, I don't think I'm getting anything. It's not a bad total for the Kings, though. 117.5 for them, given how much they suck. It's not awful.
No, fast-paced matchup, that's for sure. If they're going to do anything, it's going to be on the offensive side. On the FanDuel side for this one, same joint. Powell, Larson, Wiggins, Jaquez, Bam, Davion Mitchell, all 10% or higher, including Powell, Larson, Wiggins, and Jaquez, all north of 20. Highest owned guy from Sacramento, 8%. To Zach LaVine. So whether it's FanDuel or DraftKings, the public is getting to the Miami Heat. Part of that makes me mildly interested in one of LaVine or DeRozan or Westbrook, but that's a conversation for 9:30 and not for 6 o'clock at night. I love this slate so much. I hope that we get some sort of really ridiculous chaos happening. I want to take it here quickly because we're about to get to live before lock. We got a minute before we turn this one over. And clear these filters. Luka Doncic at 11.5, Victor Wembanyama at 10K. And then we have a pretty busy 9K range. Harden, Maxey, Murray, Şengün, Scotty Barnes, Ant, KD, LeBron. Who is your favorite pay-up option today?
It would have to be Luka out of all the pay-up options, I think. But if not him, I think it's Maxey for me, but it might be. I don't know. I've had a Harden thing all day. He was a guy I thought be the best play on the slate this morning before I pulled in all the data. So I'll go Harden.
You've had a Harden today?
I've had a Harden all day. No Kawhi out there. It just gets me Harden and ready to go.
I like it. It seems like I'm going to have more James Harden than anybody else. I would like my answer to be Luka Doncic when all is said and done. I keep staring at that 5% owned Alperen Şengün / Scotty Barnes at 94, 9,600 and keep thinking one of those two dudes is going to end up being a problem. And I don't know which one it is, but I want to find all the salary I possibly can to get to Luka Doncic. and I will funnel all of that Warriors value in around it and hope that I land on the right piece. Spags, tell the people where to find you.
Check out my YouTube channel at Splash Play Bets is where I'm putting my NBA content Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. If you want to learn more about what I'm doing, go to splashplaypodcast.com. You can see a beautiful photo of me. You can see my YouTube channels, and you can, in fact, see my NBA data. That is a poor impersonation of Josh's beautifully Claude-coded site, but it's doing a good job for me. I feel like I've taken your lead, Josh, and now I feel like I'm a professional with a real website.
I'm like the Pied Piper of nerddom.
You are. I mean, going back to even when you first got hired at Stokastic, like I was like, oh, this guy Josh doing some fun YouTube streams. I should try to do this. And then we both got on at Stokastic back when it was Osmo at the same time. And yeah, you are my Pied Piper, if nothing else.
I've seen plenty of screenshots and Discord channels of shit that looks like mine that isn't mine. So I am honored to see it at all times. You guys should be honored to watch Live Before Lock starting right now. Greg Ehrenberg, Eric Lindquist. What is up, my friends? You guys got a hell of a slate. I hope 15 dudes are ruled out right now.
Yeah, from the Pied Piper to a man who likes pie in his piper. It's myself and Eric here today. And this, I agree with you, Josh. This is a really, really good slate that we have for today. We've got Golden State to talk about again today. We've got whatever the hell else is going to happen. So do us a favor, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Josh, Spags, have a good night, guys. Good luck.
See you guys. Good luck, everyone.
Around, boys.
All right. I see that we've got a couple super chats here waiting for us already.
You're terrible at this transition, by the way. I just want to point it out. Like, you come in and you like nervously talk for a minute and you don't let
I'm not nervously talk. I came in and just made a good, that was, I will guarantee you, I haven't pulled up the chat. I will guarantee you the chat liked the joke I made. Guarantee.
No, it was funny, but then you didn't like let them talk or say anything back to it. Like, it's call and response. It's not call and then call again.
No. I come in, I intro us, and they leave.
Okay.
That's how it works. Look, and people are happy about it. Look, people enjoyed the turnover in the chat here. That's the entire point.
Oh my God. It's awful.
Other than EMAC, you got one old man here. Yeah. See, look, 1-2. Greg's jokes better than Eric's injury predictions. Boy, we're gonna have to make a lot of injury predictions for today. And
1-2, I got a feeling your whole family's going down. All right, go ahead.
Bittersweet. The rivalry between me and Jimmy Butler, he kind of gets the last laugh because while he is going to be, for all intent, I think his career kind of ended last night. But in true fashion, he took me down with him. I finished 6 points out of first place on FanDuel with a Jimmy Butler lineup last night. So he did pull me down with the ship, which I almost feel like he did it intentionally to me last night.
I had the second best Jimmy Butler lineup in the $4 and the mini max, so that was hurtful. What can you do? So had upside for second. Greg doesn't like to hear that from me though, because then I'll cheer for the downside of it. So it's whatever. But I'm excited about this slate. It has tons of late swap implications. I think there's a lot of interesting red herrings, and DK DFS over in Tails, I think, might have cued me onto a little bit of something as well. So I'm excited. Shut up. No, you shut the fuck up. You're here watching me.
Oh my God.
Barnaby O'Toole. Barnaby O'Toole.
A nice super chat from H Train here. Wins a GPP. I put it up on screen. Super chat from H Train. Won the $5 for 10K on DraftKings last night. All you've been a big help. Thanks. I put it up. What does Eric do? He takes it down to replace with a message of somebody telling him to shut up.
I told them to shut up. That's how this works.
Well, we got such a nice message here from
know the rules. My house. You take your shoes off at the door. Don't talk shit. And now we start.
Shout out to A-Train. I'd be curious. So the big differentiator for me last night, I ended up with 25% of Will Richard. He was 2% owned on FanDuel. And that was crazy ownership that we ended up getting on Will Richard, who did get confirmed to start. I thought his ownership was going to come up. Didn't end up being the case, but
there were a lot of places that didn't have Will Richard projected to start. They had Gary Payton. And then if you got screwed, like if you had a zeroed out lineup with Gary Payton with other pieces, you had to kind of fumble things around to make it work. So Will Richard had pretty low ownership, lower than we had projected. Again, 10%, I think it was in like the $4 in the main. And yeah, on FanDuel it was a joke, absolute joke. So I'm proud of you also, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler, the the end of the rivalry. It'll have to be a truce now. It ends in a stalemate, kind of like the Norm joke about cancer. You don't like it always ends in a draw. You never lose to cancer. It dies, you die with it. It's a draw. There is no winner. There is no loser. That's how I feel like Jimmy Butler and I went last night. I didn't win the GPP, and he's done for the season as well. Smoothie also says Greg got some last night. Sure, I'll let you think that. Why not? And
hell yeah, brother.
We've also got here from Zachary Cooper wants to know the top FanDuel plays by position. So let's go ahead and open up the show by talking about, as of now, some of our favorite plays at each position, Eric. And now, obviously, some of this is going to end up changing as we go here because players potentially going to be getting ruled out. So we already know that we've got no Jimmy Butler, creating a bunch of value on the Warriors, but we still have Josh Giddey questionable, Paul George questionable, and also other guys from the Warriors questionable. Draymond is questionable. We've got Will Richard questionable after the game that he had last night. Gui Santos is questionable. So chance for a ton of value to end up opening up for the Golden State Warriors. But let's at least preliminarily say who some of our top plays are at each position on FanDuel. And then, we'll adjust as news comes here. Starting at the point guard spot, who do you like the most at point guard for FanDuel?
I'm pulling up all my stuff here. It's Luka Doncic. Okay. I'm pretty sure, just because I'm going to be jamming him just about everywhere with some of the value. Most I have right now is James Harden.
So the thing that's nice about Luka is he obviously already looks solid as an option now. But there's a scenario here where the aforementioned guys from Golden State get ruled out. Then you get even more value on the slate. It becomes even easier to pay up for Luka. So I'm going to go with Luka here at point guard. And then also just want to make a note of my lineups are going to be backloaded for today with some of the uncertainty in the league. This is one of the better slates that we've had in a minute to backload lineups. But anyway, point guard, I'm going to be going with Luka over on the FanDuel side of things. Let's talk about shooting guard, and also modest ownership on Luka, barely over 10% owned on FanDuel right now. Yep. Shooting guard, I'm going to go with your guy here and James Harden.
Yeah, James Harden again. But VJ Edgecombe, markedly better play today than he was yesterday. He was an atrocious play on yesterday's slate. Talked about that quite in depth and came to fruition. Like him today.
Small forward. The small forward position, I'm going to go with the guy you just said at shooting guard, VJ Edgecombe.
Yeah, Moses Moody or the nuke of the night. We'll keep him at bay.
Oh, all right. Keeping everything close to the vest here. Yep. Power forward for me, that is going to be a 16% on Bam Adebayo on FanDuel.
Yeah, nuke of the night / Bam Adebayo.
Okay. And then finally, at center, the center position is really not great over on FanDuel. It'll be Zubats for me for now, though.
Going to be Bam at power forward / center, or if he starts, and even if he doesn't, I'm going to have a lot of Andre Drummond on FanDuel.
All right. Thank you very much for the super chat there, Zach. And let's see what else we have for questions. We've got Sir Mackey loves pie. When life gives you lemons, don't make lemon meringue pie. That shit is nasty. Well said. Those are wise words. Thank you very much, Sir Mackey loves pie.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Also, I tried to read this, believe in yourself on the scoreboard in the middle of all of his chest hair. That's great. That's really, really nice. Good God.
And then Smoothie says, sleep, Greg. I'm talking about sleep. I guarantee you I did not sleep last night either. I was betting on all kinds of crazy basketball early morning.
If you guys do not follow G. Ehrenberg on Pickett, I'm telling you, it is a trip. It is one of those things that just... You go for a ride and you're not really sure when you're going to get off, but holy shit, it is an experience unlike any other. The guy is not getting laid right now. I can tell you that very much. I can tell you that for certain with the hours of the day. You only bet on Kalshi on the weirdest shit from like 9 p.m. your time until, I don't know, what's 8 a.m. Like that's your gambling time.
Well, I work during the day, so and obviously, night play DFS. So when do I get some downtime to bet on the weather and Chinese basketball in the middle of the night? The middle of the night. By the way, you'll
be proud of me. I bought a ton of shares at minus 9,900 for LA weather 75 or 76 yesterday. So that was nice. Made a good $8 on what was that? Like $8 on. It was like 700 or something threw in to win it like $8. It was really fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, by the way, that entire the last 3 minutes or so, it is all getting clipped and sent to my girlfriend. Without a doubt, it is all getting clipped and sent to her. And just gonna say response. I also sent her my my betting, my weather thing that I'm using earlier. I was like, just curious, what are your thoughts on this? And didn't answer, just kind of passed over it and was just said LOL. And I was like, no, I want to know, judge me positively, negatively, or neutral towards this. She leaned towards positive, so that was good. But
wow,
yeah.
okay, that's a keeper. You have no shot with anybody else. So
absolute degeneracy. I'm up to though. Absolute degeneracy.
Love that.
Let's see what else we have in here. We've got Malukar wants to know who's the best pay up and value at each position. Absolutely. Let's go to best pay ups and best value at each position.
Malukar.
All right, let's start. We'll go back over to the DraftKings side of things here, and let's start at point guard. We went over some of our top options on FanDuel. Let's go. So top pay up option and top pay down option. Beginning at point guard, pay up for me is going to be Luka. Pay down, that's going to be Pajemski.
That's going to be Jamal Shed for me.
Ooh, Jamal Shed over Pajemski. Interesting.
Yep. So I love Pajemski, but I mean, he's internally owned and I can play both of them. So I wanted to give somebody else.
Okay. Shooting guard for me, pay up but shooting guard is just generally not a great position to pay up for. I'm going to say Ant, but it's because he's like the only guy to say here. So Ant as a pay up option, and then I will go for now Will Richard as a pay down option. I couldn't believe how low owned he was last night drawing the start, especially because, do you remember earlier in the year, Will Richard got a spot start and he was like 70% owned? There was nothing different about last night's slate, and he was 2% owned in the one last night. Will Richard, so obviously he's questionable to play. He might not end up being out there, but I'm going to have my lineups backloaded. I'm going to have plenty of space to be able to swap around. He's still not, he's way more popular today than he was yesterday, but still not crazy chalky or anything like that. I'm going to go with Will Richard as my pay down option shooting guard for now.
Yeah, people didn't backload their lineups enough yesterday. I doubt they have that problem today. Maybe they do. And obviously I might have some issues at like center if Drummond starts, but overall, Brandon Ingram going to be my favorite. Spend up if we call him at 7,900 a spend up. Otherwise, yeah, it's Ant pretty obviously. And I'll go Richard as well. I mean, we loved him yesterday. We love him today.
All right. The small forward position now at small forward. I'm going to go. Wait, this is another position that's like, can I just pass for a spend up option at small forward?
Yeah, D'Anthony Melton probably, point guard, small forward for the value piece. I'm all right going there because we brought up Moody already, and Moody's a great play again. Richard's a great play if he plays again. Amongst spend ups, I am contemplating some Kevin Durant or Peyton Watson in my life, but they're like 3% and 4%. It's very clearly Norman Powell if you call him a spend up at 7K.
I've got a contrarian small forward for you.
I do too.
Buddy Hield is 1% owned.
It's beautiful.
And is $3,300. So I view he's like my Will Richard guy from last night. Here's the Warriors piece, who I don't feel like Will Richard, we were pretty confident was going to start last night. And we got like Buddy Hield, I do not think is going to start, but the Warriors need offense on the court. And Buddy Hield, the one thing he could do is he could shoot threes and knock them down. If Buddy Hield's going to be 1% owned, I want to be overweight to him at 1% in a rotation that is wide open for minutes.
Yep, wide open for minutes, and we're going to play anybody wearing a Golden State jersey that could potentially play. I don't know what to make of the Kuminga news, but I should have so many lineups that are backloaded, it shouldn't matter.
All right, now at power forward, we have...
Nuke of the
night. I want to go as a pay up at power forward. I'll go Julius Randle as a pay up power forward. Pay down. This is not a great position to save salary with and punt at. I'm going to pass on a punt for power forward.
You give me shit for like doing stuff like that. That was pretty.
Well, I'm not going to tell them to. I'm not just going to tell them to play somebody bad here. Spend
it. Well, sub 6K. We'll say Draymond Green, who didn't play yesterday, who will be thrown into the rotation.
I mean, if that counts in Andrew Wiggins.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So he's sub 6K, and then I'll just the expensive guys nuke of the night. We'll talk about him later.
All right, at the center position now, as a pay up for me at center, I'm going to go with Bam. And then as a paid down guy at center, I'll go with Quentin Post, another guy from the Warriors who presents upside and is just not all that popular, 18% owned.
Yeah, I'll go Bam as well. I think Bam, this is just like the perfect spot to land after his 1 for 13 shooting game yesterday. The very very glaring, icy hot guy in my lineups yesterday next to all the fire. But I look at him as somebody who you really kind of have to look at bouncing back Sacramento, just the rebounds and things available here. You do have Sabonis there, Domantas Sabonis, and it should be an interesting one there. But as far as a paid down goes, I'll get a little contrarian here. Andre Drummond.
Okay. All right. Eric going with the Drummond there. Thank you for the super chat there, Malukar. Yobi Trice, who is a good pivot from Walter that isn't Golden State 4K and under. Okay. So he does not want to play Jacoby Walter. And what do we currently have?
Or is he talking Walter Clayton? Walter Clayton, I'm assuming.
Oh, I was
Walter
going to
way more popular.
Walter, and I was like, what is the ownership on Jacoby Walt? Because I was like, Jacoby Walter out. So I was like, what?
That makes no sense.
I got thrown out for a second. All right. So Walter Clayton.
That's why we're a team. We're a team. I know you like to come in and bombard everybody and be the big guy. You want to wear the big, you want to be the boss, need the info kind of thing. But overall, Walter Clayton is, I believe, who we're talking about. Continue on your merry way. I'm sorry, boss.
I hope he follows up and says he meant Jacoby Walter now.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, almost certainly means Walter Clayton. With that said, I don't know if you ever, it's very early your time, and Sunday mornings, I've been doing the usually the lineup building portion of Sunday Live Before Lock.
Oh, Sundays, not Saturdays?
Yeah, on Sundays. On average, I get about one lineup sent to me per show that just doesn't fit the salary restrictions, and it is a total clown show trying to figure out what the lineup is supposed to be. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for somebody to be like, "Hey, what about Jacoby Walter for today?" when he isn't in. But yeah, let's see. So a pivot off of Walter Clayton, but it cannot be a Golden State Warrior.
Can we talk same position? Or oh my God, Josh Giddey's out. Are you kidding me?
Right,
Come
so Josh
on.
Giddey is out. We'll get to that in a second. Let's finish up Yobi Trice's question. So he needs somebody who is under 4K, isn't Walter Clayton, and is not a Golden State Warrior.
I hate the Bulls. Let's go to on his own team, different position, $100 more. Please have 100. I think Kyle Anderson's a really, 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 really interesting tournament play. And there's a lot of Utah Jazz stuff we'll talk about on this show as well. I think it's one of the teams. I want to give my guy DK DFS some more love here today. He's been doing a lot more breakdowns, talking through some of the process of his bets, some of the ideas of what he's doing from a DFS perspective. I think it's really interesting. And I think he's one of the sharper guys that exists in the space and puts his money where his mouth is. I've always appreciated him. That's why we have him on Tails. But he was talking about a lot of iterations where we might get Yusuf Nurkic out. We might get something unexpected there. Currently, there are 10 guys that are active. We know Markkanen's out. We know Sensabaugh's out. We know Love is out. But there have been some weird spots where they kind of on these back-to-backs get really, really, really safe with like Svi and Nurkic, and they go to like a Clayton or a Collier in the starting lineup. I think it's most likely everybody plays there, but I think for 100 more, Kyle Anderson could end up being a real conversation piece for me in the event that we get Nurkic out and Filipowski starting, who would become one of the best tournament players on the slate, period.
So for me, Yobi Trice, because I have somebody who I want to say, but he's right at 4K. He's not under 4K. He said 4K under. So I don't know. I'm going to say Dylan Harper here.
Oh, okay.
Who is, right at that 4K line. I don't necessarily love Harper for the slate, but just kind of like the context here of low owned, isn't a Golden State Warrior, isn't somebody obviously, or somebody who we could use as a pivot here off of Walter Clayton. Harper, somebody we've seen inconsistent this year, has a little bit of upside, shows up in a few lineups for me. Don't necessarily, love getting to him, but I think he is viable. I know that he said no Golden State Warriors, but I think the way you should look at it as they're like a Buddy Hield, for instance, there are really good guys that I think are really good value options from the Warriors that are not pulling ownership. Like there are ways you could go to contrarian Warriors value guys. Quentin Post, Buddy Hield. There are ones out there. There are ones out there.
Hey, 1-1-2-2. What's it like to be wrong AF? Sorry, back to the super chat. I suck.
Another, yeah. See, Yobi Trice. Who the Fookie is Walter?
Real
Clayton?
name, no gimmicks. You remember that? They're good times.
Yeah. 3 Trailer Park Girls go around the outside. Yeah, I know it's up. All right, Yobi Trice, thank you very much for the super chat, and then also the follow up there as well. So let's see. All right, no other super chats, Eric. So let's talk about Josh Giddey, who has just been ruled out for tonight. He was listed as questionable. I thought he was going to be coming back from injury today, but apparently not going to be the case. Another day on the sidelines for Josh Giddey. Is there anybody that stands out from the Bulls with him remaining out?
Jalen Smith. This sucks. This is why I'm mad, because my prize picks just got absolutely obliterated. With Giddey back, I expected Jalen Smith to go back to the bench and play like virtually nothing. 20.5 PRA. It closed. Well, it didn't close because it's not tip off yet, but it went down to 18.5. And now I hate everything. Also, you're texting your girlfriend and smiling. You understand you're doing that on a show right now, live?
Yeah, I'm telling her to turn it on because she's being talked about.
I don't know if I like this right now. I don't like this new you. You're like Giddey. You're laughing and smiling on a show in front of
Josh Giddey just got ruled out. How can you not be Giddey?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I hate you so much. That was the worst dad joke ever. I'm a dad joke guy. That was awful. That was awful. Anyway, we got ourselves such an interesting spot with Kobe White, I assume, to be playing point guard. Are we kind of assuming also that his minutes can get ramped up a little bit further, because he's kind of been capped in a lot of these spots, and eventually we're going to get Kobe White unchained without Josh Giddey here? He's played 33 minutes as like tippy top, but like in a competitive spot, or 34, 35 minutes on the table eventually here for Kobe White, because that would be awesome. I'm guessing you're going to have minutes alongside Ayo Dosunmu. You're going to have minutes alongside Tyus Jones, who, you know, if he starts would be, Trey Jones, of course. But overall, if Trey Jones starts, yeah, he'd look interesting. But they've played a pretty condensed rotation, like 8 guys. And I think Ayo, Herter, Jones off the bench, he could be like deep flyers. But like Kobe White, probably interesting. And then Jalen Smith just looks awesome. I know he's still over 6K, and it might give some people some sticker shock, but the guy is just smashed. He's played 35, 31 minutes the last 2. And the main thing with Giddey back was I just kind of expected everybody to slide out and him to slide out, because he's not going to play over Buzelis, but now he's going to play alongside Buzelis. And so it doesn't even matter. And Jalen Smith probably ends up being my favorite guy out of everybody.
So it's worth noting here that how long has Josh Giddey been out for? What's the actual amount of time here? Like a month at this point?
I don't know, but he's so impactful when he's actually on a floor. And I assumed if he played, he was capable of playing 26 plus minutes. So like that's,
well, I'm saying it from this standpoint. He has been out. Yeah, he hasn't played in 2020.
29th.
Yeah. So I don't think this changes a ton in terms of guys that I want to get to from the Bulls, just because they've already been priced for this situation.
Jalen Smith is not priced for what he is doing in 30 plus minutes a night. That's my point. And Jalen Smith, it's going to have sticker shock to it at 6,300. He's gone 5,300, 5,800. He's going to play 30 plus minutes. Like that's the new role of Jalen Smith in the starting lineup. He slid into the starting lineup after he played 35 minutes off the bench 2 games ago. And then he slid into the starting lineup last game. They smacked Brooklyn around. I expect Jalen Smith to start. I expect Jalen Smith to be my favorite Bull, which is just an insane thing to say out loud.
Yeah, I mean, like I'd say he's the one playable Bull.
6,800 Kobe White, 34 minutes of him against James Harden. Yeah, I can get behind that too. I'm just saying, like, tournament wise.
It'll show up in some lineups. I think I'll get actual exposure to Jalen Smith. I don't think that Kobe White's going to be somebody who shows up in like 20% of lineups.
No, but I'm saying like he's playable. That's what we were talking about. Like Vooch, because the center position is what it is, I'm assuming I could maybe get a little bit here or there. We had trimmed his minutes down from like the 33, 34 to around the 30 mark because Jalen Smith would have had to play backup 5. Like Jalen Smith was not going to play over Buzelis, but he will play alongside Buzelis in the event that Josh Giddey was out here. And that's kind of what we're running into. And so it kind of changes everything for it. Oh my God. Why is everybody so mean to me lately? I don't like it here.
I don't think people like when your mom calls on the show and you don't mute your phone. I don't think that's mean. They just enjoy that you have a nice relationship with your mom. And Stephen Leibowitz did point out that we did miss a playable pun, which would have worked after getting absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
My mom is on Anthony Edwards for King of the Court. She's on Anthony Edwards for King of the Court every night, but same deal. I was like, please play the FanDuel bonus. Please do the jackpot bonus, Mom. You're in Arizona. It's a beautiful time. It's lovely there. And she does not play it. And he puts up 55 against San Antonio. She goes, oh, are they going to do it next time? I'm like, he's not going to score 50 points next time, Mom. What are we doing?
Poor Zingis here. And yeah, poor Zingis. You're his hero, Eric. But if anybody's hero is myself or Eric, you probably need to get your priorities a little bit more in line.
Yeah,
I'm no hero. I'm a man who bets Chinese basketball at 6 a.m. my time. A man who bets Australian basketball at 3 a.m. my time. I'm no hero. I'm no hero.
I was betting Australian Open in the Discord last night. That was fun. Had a bet against my guy Monfils, but my numbers are what the numbers are, and we got some nice value there. I can't even remember the guy who beat him, but I remember Gail Monfils. I was like, yeah, he's 100. This is not going to go well, and it didn't.
Hey, Obi Trice, he is playing Jalen Smith in his single lineup now. So
you are underestimating how good he's going to look.
We'll see. We just got a projection update, and we'll see how all the Bulls guys are looking right now. We've got Jalen Smith in for 33 fantasy points at $6,300. We've got Kobe White in for 33.89 fantasy points at $6,800. And then you got Vooch there for 39.09 fantasy points at $8K. I did phrase this probably incorrectly in terms of, because it's not to say that Jalen Smith, Kobe White are unplayable. I shouldn't have framed it and answered in that particular way. It's more so just not guys who are core plays for me or anything like that. Like Kobe White, I really don't think is going to show up in very many lineups for me. Jalen Smith, more so on, I can't remember, is he MPE on FanDuel? Because I know he's cheaper.
Oh, yeah, 5,800. He's going to be one of your favorite. You're going to play a lot of Jalen Smith over there.
Is he? Okay, he's power forward now. For a little while, he was center only.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, he was like 4,300 center or something once upon a time. But yeah, we're going to play Jalen Smith on FanDuel.
All right, let's get into Discord and see what questions we have there. And then we should have an ownership update. Actually, we just got the ownership update. So let's see what this is looking like here. We'll look at now the most rostered players on both FanDuel and DraftKings to give you guys an update on that with the latest run. And then we'll get into the Discord questions. So here's what we have for ownership on DraftKings. Our current chalk, which pretty spread out now. You got Przemski 55% owned. Then you got a 33% owned Moody. Jalen Smith up to 30% now. And then you've got in the 20% range, Harden, Walter Clayton, Norman Powell, Aaron Gordon, Julius Randle, Andrew Wiggins, Ivica Zubac. Okay. On FanDuel, yeah, Jalen Smith's going to be really popular on FanDuel. Let's say.
He should be really popular on FanDuel.
FanDuel, yeah, is up to 54% owned. James Harden, 44% owned. DiVincenzo, 28% owned. Powell, 27%. Zubac, 27%. Moody, Edgecombe, Paul George, and Melton all around 25% owned. So that's what we have for the FanDuel side of things. Boy, I'll tell you this right now, Eric. I do not want a ton of exposure to the 7 p.m. game with the amount of value that could be opening up. We've just got one sole 7 p.m. Eastern time game. I would like my lineups to include, I guess if Paul George gets ruled out, it's going to have to change that a little bit. But for the FanDuel side of things, like a little bit of Edgecombe, but I'm going to try to do what I can to tamp down exposure to that first game.
Yeah, a little bit of Edgecombe in my life, a little bit of Maxey by my side, a little bit of that, a little bit of Barlow, here I am, a little bit of Bona makes me oh man. That was pretty good. Go me.
All right. I mean, it didn't rhyme or anything. You just took random players' names and put it into the song. So
sorry. It's better than nothing.
I think you're overselling how good it was.
Give me 1 to 10, chat. Give me 1 to 10. I give it a good 7.5. Like that was off the dome. Mambo number 5. Are you kidding me?
You
Is
didn't
this
go.
guy kidding me?
But why didn't you go
Playoffs?
Mamu number 5?
Mamba number 5. Yeah.
No, Mamu number 5. You can't say. By the way, Paul George is ruled out, so that just fucks up everything I just said before. There's just no way that the Mamu number 5 wouldn't have been better.
Okay, we got 8.5. We got a -1. Fuck you, Supreme Juice. 9.3. 10. See, Nightmare is my favorite. 6, 7, 69.5. That's interesting. What's the half? 6.5. Lovely. Overall, pretty good. Pretty good. Eric for the win. A lot of people like me. A lot of people liking me today.
You got certainly inflated scores. It feels a little bit like the dunk contest where everybody knows the guy isn't advancing, but they kind of put up an okay dunk. So like, sure, we'll give him 7, 8. What difference does it make? But hey, Mighty Quinn says it's a solid 10 on Eric's Panda.
Drummond starting. Starting. Everything you've said is out the window. Early game
starting lineup here for the 76ers. We've got here Maxey, Edgecombe, Oubre, Barlow, Drummond. Once Paul George was, ruled out, it kind of had to change. I wish we get back old lineups, but we are going to have to get some exposure to the Philadelphia 76ers. Unfortunately now, Andre Drummond starting, and then you got the wings also with Oubre, Barlow, Edgecombe. He looks really good over on FanDuel, still okay on DraftKings, but FanDuel in particular is going to look really good. What else do you make of the starting lineup for the 76ers?
Tyrese Maxey without Joel Embiid, without Paul George. I mean, Tyrese Maxey at 9,800. We're looking for spend ups, and obviously Luka Doncic, really, really nifty. Wemby played limited minutes yesterday, 26. I think that probably brings up his floor a little bit, but against Houston, we know how good of a rebounding team they are. You're not seeing numbers like this for Wembanyama in the rebound department for no reason. And Eason is in, which is only going to hurt any kind of rebounding stock there as well. You got James Harden without Kawhi. That obviously looks fantastic. Jamal Murray against the Lakers. That looks fantastic. But those are kind of accounted for. And Nuke of the Night is going to be really low owned here now. But I am a big fan of potentially Tyrese Maxey jam, Andre Drummond jam-ish. My thing is center 4,900 Drummond, 24 minutes. If you just put him in to split the center minutes, he's a 1.1 guy at the floor. Mark Williams probably going to be playing limited minutes to some extent too. They're probably going to just have Mark Williams there specifically because otherwise Drummond would have killed Oso Ighodaro, sent his soul to the shadow realm. So we're going to like Drummond. And then Barlow has to be talked about. I mean, Dominic Barlow has not been bad. He's 4,400. There's a lot of ways that this doesn't completely smack, but he's played 30, 32 minutes in a lot of spots, 34 minutes without Joel Embiid at the floor at times. He's 4,400. I mean, he's going to look pretty good too. This is just a team that we're going to get a lot of. It is what it is. And our boy Oubre's back in our lives. He's pretty secure for minutes. 40, 44, 41, 33 minutes. What are we even doing here? Insane minutes.
We got a super chat here from Salvatore Mundy Mask. Doing the 76ers projections update in a few minutes. We'll circle back to him and put it on screen. Salvatore says, my guys, thoughts on giving Jaden Clark and Bones Highland a boost, thinking this will be a blowout? There's too much value today. Here's what you need to happen. You would need, first off, you actually need the blowout to happen. That's still, it's not a given.
You need it. Yeah.
But even then, you would need these guys in essentially one quarter to outscore what the Warriors value guys do in 4 quarters. It's too thin for today.
It's way too thin. And I am all about trying to find any kind of angle you can. I mean, yesterday's Nuke of the Night, Nicholas Claxton played 37 minutes, to a T. To a T. We absolutely nailed exactly what was going to go on with that. Nicholas Claxton, absolute smacked. And I mean, he was sub 20%. I could not have loved that play anymore at that ownership. But there were no real centers that we had to deal with. There was no real anything else. This slate has value everywhere. Early, it has value late. It has value all over the place. And to try to force Bones Highland in, just hoping it's a blowout, is so unnecessary. There aren't even words for it.
Well, I really thought Paul George was going to play. Back-to-back, sat out yesterday, but also it was kind of a game-time decision yesterday. I don't know about you. I thought that he was going to play. I'm kind of annoyed by this.
Yeah, well, you know what? You know what happens when we make assumptions?
We win at NBA DFS.
Fuck yeah, we do.
Yeah. No update quite yet. So let's start answering some of the questions from Discord. And then probably by the time we get through these, there'll be some updated projections for us to look at. We've got Einstein wants to know, any interest in Eric's boy Mogbo tonight? Nah, not for today.
Mogbo number 5.
There you go.
The jokes they don't even, we're in a simulation. Let's be serious.
Kind of like the same as what we got about the Clark and Bones Highland. A little bit too thin for
I will
today.
say this. I assume Jameson battle starts.
Okay.
And 3,100, you could play battle and like, if you absolutely had to, one of 150 type. Mogbo's the better fantasy producer in days of yore, not this year. It's just been, I mean, battle's worse than everybody from a fantasy perspective, but like, I like the idea. I like where your head's at, but we got Nuke of the Night coming. It's going to be my Toronto exposure. That's for sure.
J-Rock in the chat wants to know, who do we have for King of the Court today? So I did post it over to Tails if you guys want to check that out, but I went with Steph Curry for today. This Warriors team is so cooked if Steph doesn't go nuclear pretty much every night. Like where is their offense coming from? Now, this team was so built around Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. Curry this year, I forget exactly what it was because I did look it up earlier, but it's something like 30.9 real life points per 36 minutes. Curry scores this year with Jimmy Butler off the court. Usage rate well over 30%. So I went with Curry for my not the Nuke of the Night, for my King of the Court for today. Do you have somebody who you would like to pick, Eric, to lead the slate in PRA? Luka's the obvious answer. The problem is Luka ends up, any of the times that Luka wins, you get like $18 in bonus bets. So I would rather go with anybody else who's going to be lower owned.
Mama said Anthony Edwards. My mama said. So Anthony Edwards. There you go.
Also, one other thing too, because people in the chat just assuming it seems that the Warriors are going to get blown out. They're 3.5 point favorites.
Yeah. What are we talking about here? They're actually favored. So whatever you said is wrong. You are wrong, sir.
Yeah, he should play a full lot. Like if the game, blowouts could certainly end up happening, but I mean the spread in that game is 3.5 points. Every single game has a spread for tonight of 4 points or less, other than the Minnesota-Utah game where Minnesota's favored by 13. Every other game, at least on paper, is expected to be competitive. Larson wants to know, does the PG news change our interest at all in Maxey versus Luka on FanDuel? So Maxey certainly looks a little bit better, but relative to ownership, I still like getting to Luka over on FanDuel. Luka is on last run for FanDuel 12% owned with the amount of potential value that we could have opening up. And then also I like the benefit of having Luka in the 10 p.m. start as opposed to Maxey in the 7 p.m. start. If I'm playing one lineup, it's still Luka over Maxey for me.
Still for me too. Just Luka, we have all the salary. We can do whatever we want. There's going to be cheapies all over the place. And when you have cheapies all over the place and you have a lower owned guy at the top, I will take the assured points almost every single time. Just talked him into an ankle sprain. That was nice of me.
Here we go. Philadelphia 76ers players are updated. Tyrese Maxey at $9,800, projected for 50.77 fantasy points. BJ Edgecombe at $7,200 on Draft. He's way different looking on DraftKings compared to FanDuel. Edgecombe on DraftKings, 34.88 fantasy points at 7,200. Here's where the player starts to get a little bit more interesting. Kelly Oubre, who also looks way better on FanDuel than DraftKings. He is projected for 24.74 fantasy points on the DK side of things. Here's where we ended on Andre Drummond. Not a great projection, Eric. We have him for 23.58 fantasy points at $4,900. What do you make of some of these 76ers updates? They really don't look all that great on a points per dollar basis.
Yeah, the Maxey one looks much better to me. And that was kind of what I was getting at. Edgecombe is kind of priced out of this slate because he's just a ridiculous price point. I brought that up yesterday. I will bring it up again. He still got over 10% on a 4-game slate yesterday. That was insanity. I was like, maybe on a 2-game slate, you could see 7,200 Edgecombe with Embiid and Maxey out there. But apparently people just thought he was going to get all the usage and all the land, which was hilarious to me. But now we are staring at this Drummond thing. I'm going to embrace it. Look, it's going to be volatile. There are ways that this goes multiple directions. He can go out and smack right away. He can go out and get murdered. there are players like this that when they are starting and they are great fantasy producers, I'm willing to embrace it if they're low owned. If he remains low owned, I'm going to play him. We have positive leverage on him now at 3%. I doubt he's going to be 3%, but I also think his optimal percentage, if he plays 25, 26 minutes, which I think is very much in the realm of possible here. Bona played yesterday. Drummond did not. Drummond has the ability to come in here in a spot start and just play more. He's not on the back-to-back. He did not play yesterday. So like everything about Drummond is volatile. He could play 18 minutes. We've seen that happen in some of these starts. He can also play 30 plus. And I'm not saying the 30 plus, I'm not going to put that in for a projection standpoint, but if you want to ramp up that variance button, if you want to ramp up his projection a little bit with me, go right ahead. Drummond is cooking old, not on the offensive end of the floor. Defensively, he's regressed massively, but he's still a good fantasy producer. He's still got that dog in him for offensive boards and just ridiculous putbacks. So like Andre Drummond, while it's not super comfortable, center is just kind of a wasteland again. It's not a great center slate. We're talking about all these other pieces of value. Like Vooch with the update is the guy I'm getting the most of right now. That's insane. Jalen Smith at power forward / center. And I do have paths where I can get to Filipowski on the Utah side because I have so many lineups backloaded still. So it's going to be Maxey. It's going to be Drummond. Nothing else from Philly for me.
Yeah, so somebody in chat had asked, why is Drummond projected for so few minutes when he's starting? So I'm going to give you the answer to your question, but also don't want this to deter you from the absolute upside of Andre Drummond. It doesn't mean he doesn't have upside, but the minutes projection isn't unfair. Here's what we've had the last handful of starts for Drummond. 20 minutes, 17 and a half minutes, 23 minutes. Here's the upside, 32 and a half minutes in a game where he scored 36 fantasy points against the Knicks, 23 and a half minutes, 17 minutes, 10 and a half minutes, 22 minutes. So the reason that Drummond isn't projected for a ton of minutes is this is just kind of what he normally plays as a starter this year. But there are games where he plays well and plays 30 plus. More often than not, though, he's like 20 minutes or less in his last handful of starts. So Drummond isn't like a core player or anything like that for me, but you could see why there is GPP upside in him. And as Eric also pointed out, only 3% owned. Any other thoughts on Andre Drummond or any of the other 76ers in our updates here? If not, then I'm going to run the nuke of the night.
I'm going to take a couple of shots on Dominic Barlow. Had talked about that before as well. It's power forward, but nuke of the night is a power forward. Let's get to him.
All right, Eric, we've got interesting slate. Still a ton of players listed as questionable. We've got a little bit of upside and value on the first game on the slate. So I want to know what it is that you are going with for your nuke of the night. All we know about him so far is he's a power forward.
Yeah, power forward. He's backloaded. He's somebody who's waiting in the wings a little bit later. Let's talk through what Toronto could be doing in this specific spot. I think Toronto has a very good chance to not play Sandro Mamukashvili and start him here. Like, I think he'll definitely play. That's not what I mean. But like, he's for sure more volatile right now. It won't matter all that much because you'll be able to swap out of him. We have him projected pretty darn well right now. But this is from DK DFS, my guy, before the show. I've been thinking about this last night, talked about it last night, and why it was that I didn't want to bet Sandro props because I thought they were pretty low in the morning here anyway. Jamal Shed, I think, ends up getting the start next to Quickly. And they go Quickly, Shed, Battle, Ingram, and Barnes at the 5. We've seen routinely in these spots where you don't have a pure big on the other side that they go to Scotty Barnes at the 5. And Scotty Barnes at the 5 is a markedly fun thing. Colin Murray-Boyle, Sandro Mamukashvili, and Jakob Poeltl off the floor this season for the Toronto Raptors. Scotty Barnes has a 1.4 DraftKings points per minute rate. He plays the 5 in these kind of spots. He has triple-double upside. It looks really good at his current ownership. My nuke of the night, my favorite guy, so long as he starts at the 5, Scotty Barnes, nuke of the night.
So for myself, I'm going to go with Buddy Hield here. He's 1% owned today. I have no clue what the Warriors rotate. We didn't know what the Warriors rotations were going to end up being last night. And then the thing is also the whole wrench gets thrown into the situation when Jimmy Butler tears his ACL midway through the third quarter. But there's just so many guys who they could potentially give minutes to. We've talked about this before with Steve Kerr. He's going to, well, and I mean, we talked about it yesterday. Any of these guys come out, they play well, they knock down some shots. He's going to give them extended run. And they need offense. If Buddy Hield comes out on the court and he knocks down one of his first couple of threes, I think he's playing like mid-20s minutes in that kind of scenario. And also, not to mention, Will Richards still questionable. Gui Santos questionable. Like, you get a handful of other guys ruled out for Golden State. I want to play a 1% on Buddy Hield. He doesn't have to do all that much to have a good game relative to his salary tonight.
Daddy like a lot.
So that's where I'm at. Buddy Hield. I should have grown some balls and went with Will Richard as my nuke of the night last night.
Now you're a
Could
bitch.
have done it.
It's fine.
But got the similar sort of vein today by going with a low on Buddy Hield. Let's see. What else do we have for questions? Young Metro Boomin wants us to do updated favorite plays on FanDuel for each position. So we just got a projections update, like a minute ago or so. So, yeah, as we're doing the nuke of the night, so I'm going to rerun everything with the latest updates and some of the alterations that I'm going to make, and then we'll circle back on my actual most exposed players. So let's answer a couple of these other questions before getting back to that. But Einstein wants to know, any interest in the Kings guys? Levine, DeRozan,
Yes.
Russ, etc. Yes, for
Yeah.
you. Interesting.
It's so weird now that we've got like Sabonis back and stuff, but we haven't seen a lot of competitive spots. Like, I don't know what happened, but the Kings went on a heater, like a massive heater. They beat Houston. They beat the Lakers. I think they beat the Knicks. They beat the Pope out of I guess everybody's beating the Knicks
Everybody
now.
does
And they
now.
yeah. And then they beat Washington. They lost to Portland. It was kind of a tough spot overall. And Sabonis is getting mixed back in, and it can get a little bit wonky, but like Zach LaVine's going to play 34, 35, 36 minutes in competitive spots. And we have Miami, number one in pace on the other side. I think my favorite, just relative to ownership, as I'm kind of parsing through it, ends up being Zach LaVine. I don't know how much I end up getting in the end because it's just so dependent on what other news we get throughout the night. And like, I don't know what to make. People have been asking a lot about Jonathan Kuminga. No clue what to make of it, but there's no ownership coming into anybody. Dylan Cardwell has the most ownership of anybody on this team, which is just hilarious. But Russell Westbrook looks pretty good. Zach LaVine, I think, is my favorite of everybody. Just, if you're going to take a shot on somebody who could get Inferno hot and just hasn't really been there in a prominent way here. And he's at shooting guard, which has a little bit more utility when Brandon Pajemski is somebody at point guard that we're going to play a lot. Tyrese Maxey, his ownership's come up throughout this show. We have point guard kind of getting eaten up a little bit more. Make shooting guard more appealing to punt.
So still finalizing some updates here. I just don't think I'm going to get to very much of the Kings guys.
Me either. But
there's just better value on the slate. They're also just the inverse of what you typically would look for in value. You got Sabonis working his way back, not playing full minutes quite yet, but you got guys still kind of priced as if he is somewhat out, right? So I think guys on the team are overpriced. It's also a slate with a ton of value. So unless something crazy changes, I don't think I'm going to get to very much of the Kings.
That's the right answer, but I was trying to find something for him. And then also, I did make it very clear. I doubt I get to a lot, especially because it's going to be dependent on other pieces. And then like, it's just such an interesting salary spot to finish out at. Like, I don't know, 6,600. We're going to play a lot of cheapies. This is more stars than Scrubsy. Like Jalen Smith at 6,300, I'm still going to play. We could get Kyle Filipowski in the event that Nurkic doesn't play on the back-to-back. You have to pay attention to that starting lineup, but it's really tough to look at Sacramento and feel good about anything because Sabonis is back.
Let's see what else we have for Discord questions. JEW, no love for Oubre. Feel like he's being undervalued. So I think he's one of the top plays on the FanDuel side of things, but on DraftKings, while he is playable, he's priced at $5,200, which I think is more or less a fair price point for him. And then also you're losing out on some opportunity costs of potential value spots that would open up later. So Kelly Oubre, VJ Edgecombe, they're both just markedly different looking guys on FanDuel relative to DraftKings. So assuming it's a DraftKings related question, which usually your questions are, JEW, he's just fine on DraftKings. He's somebody who'll be in like 10% of lineups or something like that.
Yep, that sounds about right.
All right. And we have no other questions here. So we could circle back to the question from young Metro Boomin, where at the top of the show, he wanted to know some of the top plays at each position on FanDuel. And now he wants an update with some of the more recent news that we've got. And then, yeah, certainly some of it changes because, Maxey looks better. You've got VJ Edgecombe, although I think I already answered VJ Edgecombe as one of my favorite guys. I think I had a small forward earlier in the show. And then you've also got Kelly Oubre, who looks quite a bit better. But here, I've got everything updated.
For FanDuel, for what it's worth. For FanDuel. Make sure that people know it's for FanDuel. VJ Edgecombe sucks on DraftKings.
Well, yes, for FanDuel. He said top plays for FanDuel.
I know, but you went on a run and you ran and you ran. And I wanted to make sure that people didn't hear that you like VJ Edgecombe. He is the most site-dependent player on this slate, in my opinion, by far.
Kelly Oubre is pretty close too, just because of how good Kelly Oubre is going to look over on FanDuel. But a lot of this is point guard for me is still going to be Luka, only 13% owned. So still Luka for me at FanDuel point guard, Eric.
Yeah, still going to be Luka.
Shooting guard for me, I will now go to Kelly Oubre.
Going to be Kelly Oubre or VJ Edgecombe.
Small forward for me, that will be VJ Edgecombe.
VJ Edgecombe.
Power forward for me, still Bam Adebayo for me. That was my answer before as well.
Scotty Barnes, so long as he's starting at the 5.
Andre Drummond's $3,900 on FanDuel. I don't want him to be my answer, though. I'm going to stick with Zubats.
Jalen Smith.
All right. Sal he just asked us favorite center on FanDuel for GPPs. Yeah, I'm going to go Zubats as my pick. Just kind of said that one though. Let's see. Kuzuna says, where's 2 GOATs? Any interest in Keontae George for tonight, going for more balanced build? I think it's a mistake to go balanced and just ignore the value today.
I would agree.
Just insane. Go stars and scrubs. Go stars and scrubs today.
Yeah, we are starsy and scrubsy today, Z.
Yeah. What are you doing, if anything, for adjustments, considering the situation where we've got, matters a little bit more on the FanDuel than the DraftKings side of things, but we do want to make sure we have flexibility for the later part of the night. But we got some of these guys that have opened up in the early game. Once again, a little bit more so on the FanDuel side, like Drummond being sub 4K, Oubre being super cheap, Edgecombe being cheap over there. How much of your lineups do you still want to be backloaded overall for the slate? Like, what do you feel like you have to get exposure to from the early game?
Yeah, so because Drummond is at center here and we have Sandro Mamukashvili starting, which I don't think ends up happening. I think Scotty Barnes starts at the 5. I'm kind of capping Sandro and I'm going towards the other side of it. I can still get to Sandro in the event that he starts. I have so much late exposure. It's not going to be that hard. It will not be apocalyptic, but what I can't do is reverse engineer my lineups after the fact. And so obviously, I project Drummond a little bit differently. I look at Drummond as somebody that could play 23, 24 minutes as kind of like a baseline. We have him at 21 and change. And again, I think Drummond, not that I'm putting him in for 30, and otherwise he'd show up in every damn lineup, but I want to be well over 4% Andre Drummond. So I'm going to play around 25, 30% of him when it's all said and done. Dominic Barlow made way for a little bit of him as well. Adam Bona played yesterday. Adam Bona is so bad offensively. And if they need anything there, it feels as though we're going to get a little bit more minutes upside here for Dominic Barlow, who's projected pretty low as well, right around 23 and change. He's been playing more at the 5 at times. Again, you look at some of the popcorn machine stuff, and I haven't gone through every single box score without Joel Embiid, but there are a number of them. He's played a lot recently for what it's worth. Joel Embiid's been a little bit more reliable, but still not on the back-to-backs, and feel pretty good about Dominic Barlow being somebody that I want to get around 10% of, but Tyrese Maxey, he's the main guy where if you want to cap somebody, he's all right. And then just adding a little bit more Luka to your portfolio, just so you're running lineups that are a little bit more symbolic of what it could look like later based on, if you get one of the Golden State guys rolled out, it's going to look completely different. If you get one of Svi or Nurkic rolled out, it's going to look completely different on the Jazz side. So much news that's coming up later. So just finding more Luka Doncic in my lineups right from the get-go so that I'm not surprised by this and then I just have too much Tyrese Maxey.
Kid Stu, there's no question here. You usually ask us about tiers, so it's likely about tiers. By the way, the tiers contest is going to overlay today. It does not look like it's going to fill. It's only like 75% of the way full with 5 minutes left to go. So really quickly, I'll rattle these off. Tier 1 for me, that is Luka. Tier 2 for me, that is going to be Maxey. How did Maxey land in Tier 2 today? Tier 3, that is going to be Steph Curry for me with no Jimmy Butler. Tier 4, I'm going to go with Julius Randle there. Tier 5, I'll go Bam in Tier 5. And then finally, Tier 6, that is going to be... Tier 6 is a tougher one. Emmanuel Quickly will be my Tier 6 pick. Thank you for the super chat, Kids Stew. Mastermind Magruder, $4,900 or less for utility and favorite players at each position on DraftKings. All right, so once again, he wants to know favorite players per position on DraftKings, and then also $4,900 or left in the utility spot. All right, let's see, $4,900 or less. I'll say Melton.
I love Melton. Again, anybody wearing a Golden State jersey is probably the answer today for me for just about everything.
And then favorite players here. I'll go through this quick because we already did it earlier. But for me, Pajemski at point guard. I will go to Will Richard at shooting guard. Small forward, I am going to go with Buddy Hield at 1% ownership. Power forward, I will go to Julius Randle here. And then at center, I'm going to go with Bam Adebayo. Mastermind Magruder, thank you very much for the super chat. OG Mans fan, Harper or Clayton on FanDuel. Clayton over Harper for me. Yourself, Eric?
Agreed. Yeah, Clayton.
Yeah, we got that question before where somebody said they just wanted to pivot off of Walter Clayton. So I went with Harper because it was just we weren't allowed to say Warriors players either. There just weren't that many options to go with. So I went with Harper there. But yeah, in general,
a lot of stipulations.
Yeah. Just in case people get confused. Because, people ask us, hey, can you answer this question, but you're not allowed to say your 8 favorite players on the slate or something. And then it's like, well, I have to answer this guy who I don't really like to kind of make it fit the question, but just kind of how it goes. Einstein wants to know in the Discord, if the Raptors opt for a smaller lineup, would they make Agbaji more interesting? No, not really.
I think he'd be coming off the bench. I think they'd go Jamison Battle at the 3.
There's just so many better options on the slate to look at as well.
Agreed. Way better. And yeah, you're going to be pivoting into Golden State stuff almost more than certain of it.
Kizuna wants to know Murray or Maxey. That's going to be Maxey over Murray for me.
Agreed.
And then Escobar wants to know how much Kuminga am I getting to? None. I don't think he plays today.
I don't think he does either. I think they put bubble wrap on him.
I mean, I don't even know that they put bubble. They just hate him. They don't. The whole situation is weird. He doesn't like being there. They don't like him, but they made him untradeable at one point. They offered him a contract extension that he turned down for $100 million at one point. The whole situation's been very bizarre. Here's our projection on Jonathan Kuminga. We've got him for 0.8 minutes and 0.87 fantasy points. So the reason they're not showing up in the sim for you is because we're currently basically projecting him out of the rotation.
He don't look good. He doesn't look good.
Here's where he looks okay. If more players get ruled out for the Warriors, which, Draymond Green's questionable, Gui Santos is questionable, Will Richard is questionable. If they start Kuminga, totally different scenario. If he comes off the bench, I assume he doesn't play today, though.
Yep. And we might get word. I don't know. Remember this. This is probably the most important. You always ask me, what's the thing to remember? Steve Kerr is a damn dirty liar, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Do not believe a word that he says. If he says that left is right, it's right, but it might be left, but it could also be right, but it could also be left because who knows? He's actually all left. See, that's political anyway. Next.
I still think that Glenn Rivers is the biggest liar out there.
True.
Just because he'll just blatantly, Steve Kerr just legitimately doesn't know when he gives answers. Rivers knows and is just I'm just going to say random shit for no reason. He'll just lie for no reason. Say guys who aren't playing are playing, and the inverse for no benefit to him. By the way, we only have about 30 seconds left in the show. So if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and go check out Tails. I've got a bunch of bets up for basketball today. I've also got a same game parlay for later, which I'm pretty excited about, trying to take advantage of my arch nemesis Jimmy Butler's injury situation. So I've got a bet up for that game. And then obviously also all the stuff that Eric has going on there as well. Pick'em cards. And what else do you have over at Tails that people can find there, Eric?
Man, I tailed a lot of stuff today. I'm pretty excited. I tailed some Jake Ari NHL. I tailed some PGA in the streets from Trust My Data, a new guy in the PGA streets that we've got. Also had a collab with Team Money DFS, who I absolutely love his stuff. He's had some really sharp night before analysis. So wanted to give him some love and also collab a little bit with him, even though we got to get ourselves out of some Jalen Smith. So I'm probably going to be refunding that card before it starts, because you can do that on Prize Picks. Going to be sending that alert in the premium Discord in like 2 seconds. So get the hell up out of that one. But we're going to have tons of bets, tons of pick 'em. It's going to be good times tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right. Yeah. If you guys haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, download that Tails app, follow myself, follow Eric and everybody else here. And when you win some bets and have yourself a good experience, give us a nice 5-star rating and then maybe write a nice 1 or 2 sentences as a review. We would appreciate that a whole bunch. Guys, good luck with your lineups tonight. Pay attention to the injury news, because I didn't go out and say the thing today that we're not going to get the Warriors news prior to lock, and then it just instantly appeared. But today certainly seems like a day where the Warriors news is not going to come out until much later in the night. So be glued to the NBA Twitters looking for any kind of Warriors in, out, starting lineup and all that. It's going to be important for today. Good luck. See you guys back here tomorrow.